Welcome to the Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI, your home for the politically homeless, streaming live at KVI.com and the KVI app. If you want to be part of the most dangerous show on the airwaves, call or text the Warrior Injury Law Studio line at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. Coming up this hour, the Ventifada continues outside the Starbucks HQ, and Pramila Jayapal is right in the middle of all of it. But before we get to any of that, time for your daily dose of adrenaline.
You want me to stick this into my heart? Are you f***ing nuts?
Got back from Turning Point USA's America Fest last night, and we've got a ton of stories for you. Today is going to be an action-packed day. We've got amazing interviews. Andrew Kolvet, who is Charlie Kirk's producer, is going to be joining us around 4:30 today. We have a lot of stories Zach's going to weigh in on. He spoke to Danica Patrick, the race car driver. Really, we have a lot in today's episode. But I want to discuss the trip overall first, because what you're seeing in the news about the conservative infighting at Turning Point USA is not limited to Turning Point USA. It's a bigger issue of what's going on inside the conservative movement. I had a wonderful time at the convention. I really did. And even though it was hectic, and even though it was frantic, and even though part of it was on the Sabbath, and a whole bunch of stuff was going on, I had a great time. For my daughter, it was her first time going to this, and when you walk into that room, that arena where you see all the pyrotechnics and the smoke and the giant screen that says America Fest and big-name celebrities in political world and big-name celebrities in the music world are coming out of them, that would convert anybody to a believer, whether it's Christianity or whether it's conservative politics. You just get wrapped up in it. I've been going for 5 years. I've never been in that room before. Turning Point USA knows how to do it. They really, really do. The problem is that this fighting inside the conservative movement is not going to work itself out naturally, and it's not over what everybody thinks. There were a lot of discussions about Israel. For comparison, last year, when I went to this conference, anywhere I walked with my kippah, with my yarmulke on my head, it was Am Yisrael Chai, Am Yisrael Chai, which is kind of funny. It's Am Yisrael Chai, but, you know, people have problems with the pronunciation. But we love Israel. We support Israel. This year, I was getting some looks from some people because some people had infiltrated Turning Point USA. Turning Point USA released their straw poll today. 87% of attendees support Israel. But there are outside influences who are trying to change that. And they're not trying to change it because of Israel or because of foreign policy or because of America First or because of Jewish stuff or there's a Jewish cabal running the world. That's not what it is. It's not what it is at all. The left and the right have found a wedge issue. And they realize using this wedge issue can get them power in the wake of Charlie Kirk's death, or because there's a gap of power on the left because they don't have a standard bearer going into 2026 and 2028. The left and the right, or I should say the far left and the far right, are both using this opportunity to their own advantages. Let's start with the left. If you've noticed, the more far left a candidate is, the quicker they are to say, there's a genocide going on in Gaza and I condemn Israel and Netanyahu's a war criminal. Israel has a right to exist, but I hate everything that's going on, but I don't hate Jews. Anti-Semitism isn't anti-Zionism. That's what's going on the left. And you see it with every single candidate who is stepping up to run. Every single one. We'll talk about this later in the show. But there's some fool wearing a keffiyeh outside of Starbucks. What is Starbucks? There's not even a Starbucks in Israel. The closest one is in Amman, Jordan. What the hell are you doing? It's performative stupidity. Israelis don't like Starbucks. They like their coffee more Turkish style, and Starbucks doesn't do that. Starbucks does, you wanna venti caramelize the intifada, whatever it is. Okay, that's what you get there. On the right, it's a little bit more complicated. When you have this America First idea, people think that means America only. That's not the case. America First means protecting American interests wherever they are in the world. It also reminds me of what they used to say about the Roman Empire, is that people were so afraid of Caesar and the Roman Empire that a Roman citizen could basically go anywhere they wanted in the world, and if you messed with a Roman citizen, you were messing with Rome. At least that's how the story goes. That's the way we want it too. We have interest overseas. We have oil interests overseas. We have mining interests overseas. We have business relationships overseas. There's a difference between America first and America only, or American isolationism. If you have American isolationism, you get World War I. If you have American isolationism, you get World War II. That doesn't mean we have to bribe everybody all the time. And by the way, I think bribing everybody is stupid. I think it doesn't get you necessarily what you want. Doing business with people is different than bribing people. We all have people we know through work. We all have people we know through connections. And then we always know there's somebody from whatever nonprofit we're loosely affiliated with is coming knocking on your door, not because they're friends of yours, but because they want something from you. Those are very different relationships. And unfortunately, the people on the right are having a hard time distinguishing between the two. Let's start with the good. There was a booth at Turning Point USA where these guys were clearly, and Zach and I spoke about this on Friday, these guys were clearly trying to tick off anybody they could and go viral. And guess what? They mostly succeeded. These lunatics were saying every offensive thing you can imagine, putting every offensive thing up on the board about Jews, about Ben Shapiro, about Israel, about the right, about the left, you name it, they were putting it up on the screen behind them. I can't repeat some of the stuff they posted on that screen. But day one, which was fascinating, was everybody went over to fight with them. At Turning Point USA, they were arguing. My daughter was in the mix. It was crazy to watch. It was fun. It was proud on my part. It's crazy to watch, but that was the fight that was happening in the mix. And that was something to behold. The problem was, as the weekend continued, the Nick Fuentes types, the far left types, kept trying to infiltrate and infiltrate and infiltrate and infiltrate. And Turning Point USA did an okay job, but when you're dealing with 30,000 people and rent-a-cops at the doors, there's only so much you can do, and you're busy worrying about Secret Service, and you're worried about the events, and you're worried about the speakers, and you're worried about everything else. Turning Point did the best job they possibly could. But I think the way they're framing this as a Thanksgiving dinner where everybody's fighting at the table, but we're still family, I'm not sure that's entirely true. Because there are people who want the downfall of the conservative movement. And that was on display. And I don't fault Turning Point for this. They just lost their boss. They just lost their mentor. They just lost their husband. They just lost their coworker. They just lost a friend. But what's happening right now is people are trying to fill a void left by Charlie. And in the process of trying to fill that void, they are showing Charlie Kirk was one of a kind and cannot be replaced. You have no idea how much he was doing behind the scenes, whether it was on the media end, whether it was in the political end, how much he was doing to stop infighting, to make everybody work together. And look what he was able to help deliver was 2024 and President Trump getting elected and conservative victory. And look at the path we're on right now. Unfortunately, it's a lot of people looking for clicks right now, and it's a lot of people being disingenuous. I was so excited after the first night because Ben Shapiro got up on that stage and he called out all the BS and he says, this is what's conservative, this is what's not, based on Charlie Kirk's own principles. Charlie Kirk is one of the most videoed people in history. If you ever want to know what Charlie Kirk thought about something, go on the internet, type in his name, type in the topic, it will pop up. In fact, Turning Point has said they have years of video they haven't even posted yet because they have so much video of the guy. So, when people say, I know what Charlie wants, or I know what Turning Point wants, or I know this, or I know that, there's really only one person who does. And that one person is Erica Kirk. How do I know this? I talk to my wife. Mike knows this. From time to time, I'll come in and say, hey, just noticed this about the show, or whatever it is. This happens all the time. This is the husband-wife relationship, especially in this space. We have these discussions with my wife. We have these discussions. Erica Kirk knows that. And you have to be able to say, I want this in my movement. I don't want this in my movement. Let me pick an extreme case for a second. So if you say, well, if we agree on something, we're a big enough tent for everybody. Let me take an extreme case. Cool. Guess who agrees with some of our stuff? The KKK. And they agree with a lot more on the left, don't get me wrong. But the 10% of stuff that they agree with us on, does that mean you want them in the room? I'm not saying they were. I don't want anybody to think they were. There was nothing even close to that in the room. But there were some of the Nick Fuentes types who were trying to infiltrate the conference. In some cases they failed. In some cases they were successful. So, do you say, this is where I'm drawing the line? Where do you say is where you draw the line? Because Charlie Kirk himself said, I don't want these types. You're not part of the movement. We have clip after clip after clip of him doing this. So what bothers me is when everybody was saying we don't do ideological purity tests. Yeah, we actually kind of do. And it's not a violation of free speech. You're allowed to say what awful, terrible, horrible, no good thing you want. But as we say all the time, that doesn't mean freedom of consequence. First example, Megyn Kelly. I liked Megyn Kelly's show for the legal analysis. We say this all the time. I am not a lawyer. We don't cover trials in real time because I'm not a lawyer. We usually afterwards, I get a legal expert on or I do some research, do some analysis into the trial. We do it. One of the places I would go to is Megyn Kelly's show when there was a high-profile trial because she brought in some big experts. I realize now I don't think I liked her. I liked the experts she brought on the show. I unsubscribed from Megyn Kelly today because she is no longer an honest broker for truth. What do I mean by this? You have Candace Owens, who has made the most insane accusations, saying that Turning Point USA had Charlie Kirk killed, the Trump administration had Charlie Kirk, Mossad, Egyptian airplanes, you name it. It's all over the internet. You can't get away from it. Ben Shapiro called out Megyn Kelly for running interference for Candace Owens. Megyn Kelly had her tour. This was a sit-down she did with Ben Shapiro about 3-4 weeks ago.
You and I differ on our angle with regard to, for example, Candace Owens. I think that what Candace Owens is doing right now is evil. It is evil what she is doing right now. Okay? And I say that, again...
But what
because
like, I didn't opine on whether it's evil or not, but my position is it's really none of my business. And
why is it? But I have a question. Why is it none of your business? I mean, you comment on these things for a living.
I'm not mother of the internet.
No, but if this were on the left and somebody were accusing Charlie Kirk of his wife having murdered him, I assume that you would be talking about it.
Is that what Candace is accusing Erica of?
Yes.
Of murdering her own husband?
She's accusing TPUSA insiders and other members of the right wing, including Seth Dillon, of being involved in the murder of Charlie Kirk, yes.
Okay. Like I said, I don't take in that content, which is an honest statement. I don't have time to watch Candace's show.
I believe you. But the point that I'm making is that that friendship should not, in our business, I think it's important. Listen, friendship should not trump.
We don't even know each other.
I understand, but...
Okay. You heard all that right there. This is what Megyn Kelly said on stage at Turning Point USA when she was being interviewed by Jack Posobiec.
He thinks he's in a position to decide who must say what to whom and when. Thank you. So I don't think we are friends anymore. I've been a very good friend to Ben. Nobody knew who the heck Ben Shapiro was when I started putting him on my shows on the Fox News channel. And I helped make him a star. And I've been very, very good to Ben over the years. And he's been good to me, too. He just recently came on my tour, as did you. And I gave him the most kind introduction I could possibly give him because I know that he's losing subscribers a lot. And so I tried to do something nice for him by giving him a long 10-minute intro and personally vouching for him. And we mixed it up on Israel out on stage. It wasn't Israel because we're on the same place on Israel. We mixed it up over whether Tucker Carlson should be excommunicated from the conservative movement, which I do not believe. And thank you. And when it was over, we hugged, said goodbye, and then we had a nice text exchange a couple days later saying our friendship was important to us. And the next thing I saw was him attacking me on stage last night as a coward. So that's not friendship, and I think that's fine with me.
Can we be clear about friendship in our business for a second? There's very few people in our business who are friends, like hanging out. We hang out at conventions. Yes, I'm friends with some more of the people around here locally, but I'm friendly with some people. But if I have a disagreement with my friend, I'm going to call them out, and Ben called her out to her face. I didn't play the part of that where Megyn Kelly said she was defending Candace Owens because she's a young mother. What does that have to do with anything? She's talking crazy. Ben Shapiro said the other night on stage, Ilhan Omar is a young mother too. Does that mean we defend her for the same reason? Megyn Kelly, for whatever reason, has decided she is going to defend Candace Owens. I don't know why. And all the crazy stuff she is putting out there in the world. It makes no sense to me. So I no longer see Megyn Kelly as an honest broker of truth. And if I don't see her that way, I can't take anything she says seriously. I hope that changes. I really do. I don't know what's going on with her. I've never met her. I hope that changes because I did enjoy her content. No, I'm not calling her an anti-Semite. But what I don't understand is why she's not clearly seeing there's an attempt to divide the right over Israel, using Israel, using Jews. And Candace Owens, after Ben Shapiro tore her to shreds, literally went on one of the most anti-Semitic rants I have ever heard in my life. The masks are totally off, completely off. I call out anybody on the right or the left when they do that kind of stuff. No, I don't think Megyn Kelly's an anti-Semite. I don't understand why she's not seeing this wedge issue that is being used on the right. Same goes for Tucker Carlson, by the way. He is using this to divide. And if you are actually watching Tucker Carlson's content these days, you will see that anything he is saying is not in line with conservatism. It's not. I challenge you to prove me wrong on that. What I would love to see happen, and I don't run Turning Point USA. I don't run the Republican Party. I don't even run the Republican Party here in Washington. I don't even think a lot of people listen to me half the time when I give them advice. But I'll tell you this, you need to say, here are the guardrails. This is what we are not in favor of. And I'm not even talking about Israel right now. But no, just because you say you're a white supremacist who's aligned with the right doesn't mean we want you speaking for us. You have to say, here are our limits, and I'm going to prove to you why. Because the left never did. The left never said, here's what we believe in. And no, a guy cannot become a girl. If they had done that, they probably would not have lost in 2024. But they did whatever their radical base was, and they got dragged farther and farther and farther to the left. And now there's no coming back for them. They're trying to moderate their message now, but we all have seen it. The masks are completely off, and I don't want that to happen to our side because right now we are seen as the party of the normies because the average person doesn't watch Megyn Kelly and doesn't watch Candace Owens and doesn't watch Tucker Carlson and doesn't watch anybody over on the left. The average person is just living their lives, trying to afford life, trying to do their job. And if you lose those normies, you lose elections. And that's what I don't want to happen to us. Because, you know, President Trump got the largest Jewish vote since Ronald Reagan, and it was growing. There is this massive movement of Jews towards the Republican Party right now. And then you start bringing in the white supremacists. If I didn't know better, I'd say this was a psyop to destroy the Republican Party. No, I just think it's people who want clicks and want influence and say, I'm the new voice of the Republican Party. I don't want to see that happen because that's how you sow division. Because even at your family Thanksgiving, the mom or dad will eventually come in and say, guys, you crossed the line with that one. You go to that corner. You go to that corner. Take a timeout. And I don't really see anybody doing that. Nor am I even sure who would even be that person. I think, unfortunately, the Jewish topic, is being used as a wedge issue to divide us. And that's what I'm most worried about. We go to the Warrior Injury Law Studio line, take a call from Eric in Renton. Eric, what's going on, man?
Hey, so Ari, I'm a big Megyn Kelly fan, and not just because she's, drop dead gorgeous blonde. I do like her show. I watch her almost every day, and 95% of her content is interesting. She does some, gossipy stuff sometimes, but in any event, I watch the show quite often. And as far as the Candace Owens and Eric Kirk thing is I think she's trying to solve the problem. She's trying to get to the bottom of it. She wanted to broker a meeting between the two, and they eventually did meet on their own without Megyn Kelly being a broker or being a arbiter or anything of that nature. And I think she's just trying to get to the bottom of it. I stopped watching Candace Owens a while back, even before Charlie Kirk, because I think once she got kicked off, the different platforms that she was, not platforms, but people that she was working with, she just started just going off the rails. And I think she's just on a bender about just trying to get attention for something.
You know what I think it is? You know what it reminds me of? I don't know about this, and a bunch of women are about to get mad at me about this. This is like the girl who thought that the head of the football team, the captain of the football team, was in love with her and just isn't. That's how she's acting. That's how Candace Owens is acting, I'm saying. That's the behavior I'm seeing, this unhinged craziness.
Yeah, I can definitely see that, because from the clips and things I have seen, I don't watch her content anymore. That's kind of like what I'm getting at, because she's coming up with the outrageous things like, how does she find this stuff about Egyptian airplanes following people around? Sorry, what?
My favorite is the conspiracy theory that she said, like, these people are in on it, and somebody on the internet convinced her that this was a theory, and they gave her her own attorney's address, and she went live with that, not realizing it was her own attorney's address.
Oh, boy.
Yeah.
You know, when she first came out, she was a firebrand, but somebody had told me that she just went to the right because that's where the money was or something. She was.
I would agree with that.
So I don't know. I don't know how true her real persona is, but when I watch Megyn Kelly, I can tell that she's authentic. I don't think she's anti-Semitic. I do think that she wants to get to the bottom of things and find the truth, just like everybody else. And wherever the truth leads her, I think she will say, okay, that's it, and make decisions from there. But I don't think you should throw Megyn Kelly under the bus because, Mark Levin already did anyway. So
I can't speak for what Mark Levin did or didn't do because I don't consume his content, as they say. But what I will say is for me, look, Eric, you listen to the show. I always have a gauge, a pulse on when somebody is not being themselves. They are outside the norm. I studied body language. It's a weird thing, I know. But I actually studied this. And whenever this stuff comes up, Megyn Kelly is not being Megyn Kelly that we all know and love. And that's what's bothering me. It feels disingenuous on this topic. And what has thrown me out of treating her as an honest broker is this topic. And I wish she would say, if she doesn't know enough, fine, but she's contradicting herself. I do know enough, I don't know enough. My problem is nobody in the big names on the right is recognizing that all of this is being used as that wedge issue. And I don't want to single out Megyn Kelly for that. I'm not hearing Ben Shapiro say that either. This is being used as a wedge issue to divide us. And instead, we are fighting over Israel or over Jews or over whatever it is. And we're not actually focused on the fact of what's the motivation of somebody to use this to divide our party. That's what I'm seeing.
Well, I won't argue that point. And I guess because as many times I've watched Megyn's show, I guess I haven't seen the difference or seen, the tells that you might be seeing.
You know what you watch for? I'll tell you what to watch for, because I'm not trying to turn you off from her. You want to watch her? Go ahead and watch her. Watch the live stuff she did with Ben Shapiro. Just watch that.
I did. I watched all those.
Okay, great. That's where I see it the most. But what I'm saying is, you want to keep listening? I'm not telling people not to listen to her. I'm telling you why I'm not anymore. I'm not trying to be like, boycott Megyn Kelly. That's not what I do at all, okay? I'm saying why I don't listen, and it's because of this wedge issue, and I think she is so much smarter than to not, or rather, she is too smart to not be seeing this. Too smart to not be seeing this, and I'm kind of just wondering why. Eric, I really appreciate this conversation. I love when people call to disagree with me. Appreciate you being part of the show. You want to be part of the show, give me a call or a text at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. When we come back, my friends, caramelize the Ventifada. We're going to tell you what's going on outside the Starbucks HQ right here in Seattle, and Pramila Jayapal's in the mix. We'll tell you all about it when we come back. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. Over the past few days, there has been a protest, a merry band of morons who are outside the Starbucks HQ. They identify as baristas who have been on strike since Red Cup Coffee Day, which is a big day when they reveal these special kinds of Starbucks cups or something like before Thanksgiving. And they've been on strike ever since. You want to know one of the reasons why I don't think they're actually baristas? You've been out of work for a month and you haven't gotten paid yet? Now, what these guys are trying to do is carry this over into the new year. Why? Because then the unemployment funding for striking workers kicks in, which was signed into law by Governor Bob Ferguson, this crazy idea by the Democrats, which is going to bankrupt our unemployment department because everybody's going to go on strike after that. They saw an opportunity and they said, well, if we just keep this thing going, we're going to get unemployment. Are these people actually Starbucks baristas? You know what's going to be an issue in the new year, Mike? How do they prove any of these things? Does unemployment just go to them or do they actually have to prove it? Because during COVID, you didn't have to prove anything, or those Nigerian scammers wouldn't have stolen over $1 billion out of our unemployment fund because Jay Inslee and Susie Levine took the restrictions off the money that actually verified people's identity. Is there going to be anything that actually verifies this? Anybody? That's question number one. I don't know if these people are actually baristas. Maybe a few of them hardcore ones are. Maybe some of them are ones who got laid off already. Who knows? But what they've done is they set up shop in front of the Starbucks headquarters in Seattle, right near the stadiums. Now, you know it's the Starbucks headquarters because they got the Little Mermaid's head poking out up top. And depending on what time of year it is, they either have an American flag up there or the Pride flag. That's the Starbucks HQ. The building? Kind of empty over the weekend. Not that many people going to work on the weekend. Also, I think they closed the big roastery that was there, so really not that many people going. And then on top of that, you had a ton of layoffs. How many people are even in that building, or is it just the mermaid head is up top, so here's what we're going to protest? Now, over the weekend, I called out these protesters by saying Starbucks could end this because that's private property. And somebody responded with a link to an article talking about how it's not, it's actually public property. And you know what my response to that is? If they don't let us park there for the Seahawks games, it's private property. Because if we were allowed to park there wherever we wanted, that lot would be full every Seahawks game. Instead, they've got signs up everywhere, even though that's a really long walk, by the way. A really long walk. They got signs up everywhere, no event parking, no game day parking. I had to negotiate with Starbucks. Oh my God, Mike, this just popped in my head. I completely forgot about this. There is a venue across the street that's a rental club. It's not a full-time club. It is meant to be a rental club. And I used to have events there for kids, like casino nights, make it feel a little bit cooler in the room. I had to negotiate with the landlord of that property to use their parking lot for the kids to park at the rental club. I think it's called Soda Pop, across the street. So I know the rules of that property. You could kick them out if you want to. Why is Starbucks not kicking them out? Maybe Starbucks is saying, you know what, while they're out there, we're just going to pack and move out of town. If you want Starbucks to move, this is the best way you can do it. So over the weekend, they had a VIP guest. Representative Pramila Jayapal, Democrat from Hamas, was out there with everybody. And here's what she said.
Store this country, not just one store, not just 215 stores, not just one company, but you are helping us to restore this country to a place where we actually can get rid of the wealth inequality, the income inequality, all the ways in which workers are getting screwed every day. So thank you to...
Hang on. Wealth inequality. I'm sorry, but guess what? You pour coffee for a living. I worked as a barista for a very, very short time because the bar that I worked at also had an espresso machine. I wasn't good at it. I was good at making drinks with alcohol, not good at the espresso stuff. Anyway, that is not exactly a high-skilled job. Literally, a robot can do your job. This is not something that requires schooling. This is not something that requires education. You get paid what you deserve, and Starbucks employees make a lot of money. They get college tuition. They get medical benefits. I don't know what you guys are complaining about. Shut up and get back to making the coffee. But what Jayapal said is really what they're after. This is what else she said.
Make money, that's okay, but you gotta share the wealth. You gotta have.
Whoa, 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 whoa. If you want to make money, that's okay, but you gotta share the wealth? How much of my wealth would you like? I'm not a rich guy. I'm a radio host. Radio money ain't TV money. How much of my wealth would you like? How much of my money would you like? How much of anybody else's money would you like? We know the Democrats want a full-on income tax this year. Why do you think that is? Because they want all of your wealth. By the way, if they confiscated everybody's wealth who's a billionaire and a trillionaire in this country, if they took all their money, you'd probably be able to run the U.S. government for 9 months, and then it'd be gone, and all the jobs would be gone too, and all the corporations would be gone too. How much of my wealth do you want? Basically, what they think is this should be run like socialism, and guess what? If Starbucks was run like that, they wouldn't be the successful company they are right now. You guys can keep up this nonsense all you want with your Ventifada. Yeah, why is some idiot wearing a keffiyeh over there? What does that have to do with anything? There are no Starbucks in Israel. The closest one is in Amman, Jordan. Literally in Amman, Jordan. They don't do the Starbucks in the Middle East because they like the Turkish coffee. So what are we doing now? From the coffee to the tea, baristas will be free? What the hell are we doing here? Yes, caramelize the Ventifada. Let's march with that. Well, we're the resistance against the foam. We don't want the whipped cream. We don't want the extra calories. What kind of stupidity is this? Odds are, most of them, not actually baristas. But those that are, what they're doing is cruising to that January deadline where they can get unemployment for striking. Make no mistake about it, you're going to see a ton of people going on strike because now they get paid to do so. And now there's no incentive for them to ever end the strike. The only incentive right now is that they're not getting paid. Lots more to discuss as the show continues, my friends. When we come back, the Department of Justice is suing Washington, D.C. We'll tell you why, because it's kind of entertaining. That plus your calls and texts. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. Welcome back to the Ari Hoffman Show. Just a reminder, download the KVI app and, of course, subscribe on whatever your preferred podcast platform is. That way, if you're going on vacation, you can take KVI with you. And you can listen to us while you're on vacation because you don't want to miss our Christmas spectacular. If you are driving somewhere for a Christmas meal with your family, traveling somewhere, you want to be listening to the KVI Christmas Spectacular. That's right. This Jew is going to talk about Christmas for 3 hours. No, Mike's going to be part of it. Phil's going to be part of it. Zach's going to be part of it. We discuss everything. Songs, Die Hard, you name it. So you don't want to miss this. It's a lot of fun. We've been prepping this for a while now. It's going to be a great episode, the KVI Christmas Spectacular. So make sure you download the KVI app and make sure you subscribe on whatever your preferred podcast platforms are.
It's so good, we're going to run it twice.
There you go. See, it is that. We are very, very proud of it around here. We go to the Warrior Injury Law Studio line. Take a call from Daniel in the Navy. Daniel, what's going on?
Hey, Ari, real quick before the main point, I think you might agree with me that Die Hard is actually a Hanukkah movie because you have one man resisting an invading force and taking back.
No, it's a small number resists the larger number. Yes, a true Hanukkah movie. Very, very good, except, there's all that Christmas stuff in it. So, but funny. I like that. Yes. Well, if you light the Nakatomi building on fire and you blow up the roof, is it like a candle for Hanukkah? How many explosions does it take to qualify as a menorah? Yes, your main point, sir.
Yeah, so my main point, going on to the America Fest and all the what we're seeing in the conservative movement right now. It reminds me. This is a little bit of a rant. So I'll try to keep it short. In Germany, in the post World War I, 1920s, early 1920s, you had an extremely large, very liberal, what we would call alt-left movement in Germany. We had LGBTQ+, you had trans, you had all the same issues we're suffering today, and also way worse economic issues. And then you had a conservative backlash of people saying, no, we want traditional, in that case, German values, family values, religious values. And what we saw historically happen was a counter movement within the conservatism hijacked the movement and became the browncoats, which became the Nazi Party. And we know they weren't true conservatives. And kind of in America today, we're seeing that same situation with figures like Nick Fuentes and all these people trying to hijack the conservative party away from actual conservatism. And it's just, history repeats itself. And God willing, because we're America and because we trust in God, hopefully we'll be able to resist that hijacking of our values. But it's a pretty scary parallel.
Well, from your mouth to God's ears, please God, we shouldn't have that happen again. But I'll tell you, it's happened again in history since Germany. That's what happened in Iran. That's literally what happened in Iran. The Ayatollah and crew convinced everybody that they were being corrupted by Western values. And the same exact thing happened. Now, I like conservative values. I like traditional values. I like religious values. But there are people who are using this stuff as wedge issues to divide all of us. Daniel, appreciate it. Happy Hanukkah to you and yours, my man. Merry Christmas to everybody else and Happy New Year. And here's a little present for everybody. Here's a good one for you. The Department of Justice today has sued Washington, D.C.'s police department over the district's ban on several firearms, including AR-15s, alleged violations of the Second Amendment. Quote from Harmeet Dillon. The Civil Rights Division will defend American citizens from unconstitutional restrictions of commonly used firearms in violation of their Second Amendment rights. The newly established Second Amendment section filed this lawsuit to ensure the very rights D.C. residents Mr. Heller secured 17 years ago are enforced today, and that all law-abiding citizens seeking to own protected firearms for lawful purposes may do so. Can we do this here in Washington? Can we have somebody come on out here from the Justice Department? You know what? We're going to call our buddy, Assistant Attorney General Harmeet Dillon from the Civil Rights Division of the DOJ, and see if we can do this exact same case here in Washington. The issue is not the gun. The issue is the gun man. I was thinking about this yesterday when I was flying back from Turning Point USA at the airport. What happens? I go through, I get rid of all my stuff. I beep. Why do I beep? I have no idea. I took off my belt, threw it over, and then they say, oh, you're good, but random screening over there. Okay, I know I'm a little scary to look at, especially with my receding hairline. Do I look like a threat to you? In Israel, they don't look for the bomb. They look for the bomber. It's not the gun. It's the gunman. And how many times do we see, this person was on our radar, but we lost track of them. This person was on our radar, but we didn't do anything about it. We don't spend enough time going after the gun, man or woman for that matter, or trans, whatever. Instead, we spend the time going after the gun. The guns are not inherently bad, just like cars aren't inherently bad, just like knives aren't inherently bad or anything else. It's when you decide to do something evil with them, that's the problem. Got a lot more to discuss as the show continues. When we come back, my friends, some good news out of the University of Washington. A professor gets justice at last and makes me giggle at the same time. We'll tell you what's going on when we come back. You're listening to The Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. You guys might remember this case. We've been covering it for quite some time. There's a professor over at the University of Washington who's a computer science professor named Stuart Regis. And what happened was UW was mandating that all staff put in their syllabi, individual, singularly it's syllabus. Together, I think it's syllabi. That they do a land acknowledgement in their syllabus. So, Professor Stuart Regis, wait, sidebar. I got to tell you this story. When I was running for office, I remember I'm sitting at one of these panels with all the other candidates, and they say beforehand that they want to do a land acknowledgement here in Georgetown. So what happens? I feel myself starting to giggle about all this. So I put my head in my hands and cover my mouth as if I'm looking down at the table, and I'm giggling. I'm giggling to myself, trying to hold it in how ridiculous it was, because I was still fairly new to this, and I couldn't believe this was a real thing and actually happening. Somebody snapped a picture of it and goes, "Look how seriously Ari Hoffman is taking the land acknowledgement." Some liberal thought I was really serious about this. Okay, I wasn't. I was giggling. Sorry to disappoint you. Anyway, Professor Stuart Regis wrote his own syllabus stating that by the labor theory of property, the Coast Salish people can claim historical ownership of almost none of the land currently occupied by the University of Washington. As I say all the time, if the University of Washington feels so strongly about this, give the University of the Coast Salish tribe. While you're doing that, you do the same stupid thing before the Kraken game. Give them the hockey team. Give them the stadium. Give them Climate Pledge. I'm sure they'll come up with a better name for it than Climate Pledge Arena. So what happens? The Ninth Circuit Court ruled in his favor because University of Washington got all mad at him. Oh, it's offensive. Oh, it's disgusting. And a decision issued on Friday, the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals. Man, how times have changed. By the way, the best thing President Trump did, Supreme Court, and fixing the Ninth Circuit, which used to be the most liberal, most overturned court. The Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals sided with University of Washington Professor Stuart Regis, finding that university officials unlawfully punished him for including a parody land acknowledgement, which is just, I can't believe this thing went to court. How much money was spent on this trial? How much? How much was spent working your way up the ladder? You're talking hundreds of thousands of dollars, if not millions of dollars spent on this. More of your taxpayer money that went to University of Washington on this stupidity. I thought we're all about free speech on college campuses. If he wants to make a joke of your dumb-dumbness, then let him do it. Crazy. Was it worth it, guys? Really? Was it worth it? Over on the text line, Dennis says, regarding our earlier topic, it's so frustrating the Republicans are always fighting with each other. That's one thing the Democrats have going for them. They seem to stick together. Not really. They stick together in votes most of the time. They're always knifing each other in the back behind the scenes. Always, always, always. We see it play out, and we always go, yes! When the left eats itself, it's delicious. That phrase sound familiar? Well, the thing is, they usually vote in a block. We don't vote in a block. We've got our holdouts. There's not as many of those on the left. Here, from the 206, Nick Fuentes is not who I want in my tent. He makes us all look bad. Yes, I completely agree. Over here, from Rob in Lakewood, Jayapal says, income inequality will all be equally poor. So true, so true. This one from Nancy. Candace Owens was a real kickstart for the conservative college age when she first started blogging. It was great. She and Charlie Kirk really worked well together as motivation for the youth movement. So sad she has lost truth along the way. Yes, Nancy, 100% right. She came on the scene with a big splash, but then it just seems like she just grabs on whatever topic is trendy at the time and then doesn't let it go. We got a whole lot more to discuss as the show continues. When we come back, my friends, Brian Heywood is going to be stopping by with a message for everybody about the initiatives. What kind of chance are they having? How's it looking for them? Where can you sign these things? Because I know a lot of you want to. We'll give you all details when we come back. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. Welcome to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI, your home for the politically homeless, streaming live and in studio at KVI.com and the KVI app. If you want to be part of the most dangerous show on the airwaves, call or text the Warrior Injury Law Studio line at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. Coming up at 4:30 today, Andrew Kolvet, Charlie Kirk's executive producer, will be joining the show to recap America Fest. But before we get to any of that, the question is, how is the signature gathering going here in Washington? We hear good things, we hear bad things, we hear in-between things. Joining us now on the Warrior Injury Law Studio line, the man behind Let's Go Washington, Brian Heywood. Welcome back to the show, my friend.
Good afternoon. Great to talk with you. Looks like are you back from your warm weather down in Phoenix?
Yes, I'm back here to the cold, cold weather. But wait a second, Brian, I don't think I gave you the right intro. I have to do this the way the left would do it. Joining us now, the man behind Let's Go Washington, the worst thing in the world. He's the biggest threat to Washington, the one and only Brian Heywood. Is that more appropriate from what the left says about you?
I feel a lot more comfortable now that you've given that.
Just making sure. Okay, I just want to make sure we had that one there. Okay, How is the signature collection going so far?
So for the two initiatives that we're sponsoring, we are actually in a really good place. We're about 365,000 on the protecting girls sports, and we're about 335 on the parents' rights one. But we've got, I know on Tuesday, we've probably got another 20,000 that are going to be coming in, and then I just got notice from the post office about 3 boxes. We've got another 15,000 there, and it looks like that's going to be our pace for the next several days. About 10 to 20,000 signatures in per day from the mail that's coming back. So we will absolutely, no doubt about it, we will have both girls sports and the parents' rights. Both of them will qualify. Right now, what we're asking everybody, I don't want to just qualify. I want to blow the numbers away. So we're asking anybody that has them at home. We've got a bunch of drop-off locations on our website, letsgowa.com. You can find locations all around the state. Bring them in. And it's sort of getting late to mail them, so we're asking people to bring them in. Let us know if you need someone to pick them up. We've got a Pony Express that can go out and pick them up as well.
That's even more amazing. I was going to ask about that. Now, just to stress this point about the mail, I didn't trust the mail so much that I took the signature sheets we had here at KVI. Young Zach said to me, can I give these to you to make sure they get in? And I thought to myself, I'm going to be seeing my buddy Steve Gordon down in Arizona at America Fest. I'll just give them to him. So I literally put them in my laptop case, flew down to Phoenix, handed them to Steve Gordon before the left goes, oh my God, he was collecting signatures there. They were sealed in the envelope, ready to go for you. So no, I wasn't collecting signatures at America Fest. I did think about it, by the way, and I'm like, oh God, that's going to screw up this whole thing. If there's a single picture of it, they're going to say, oh my God, they're getting signatures in Phoenix.
Out of state, yeah.
Yeah.
But you trusted, that tells you something about the mail, that you trusted TSA more than you did the mail.
That's right. They could have confiscated it. Now, here's something I want to clarify for the listeners also. There's the amount you need. There's the amount you want to get, and in between somewhere is the amount you need to get, because inevitably some of these things get disqualified. You can't read somebody's handwriting, somebody wrote information that wasn't correct, and it all needs to be verified. So what are those numbers?
You bet. So the very first numbers is, it's more complex than this, but it's roughly 309,000 signatures that you need. That's the minimum required that have to be verified to qualify an initiative. In order to get 309,000, as you mentioned, there's duplicates, there's poor handwriting, there's things that don't match. We want about 380,000 is the number, and then my goal is to get over 400,000 on each of these.
Now, how many did you get last time for the signature gathering? I mean, ballpark on each of them. You don't have to give me all 7, but the last time you ran the parental rights one, how many did you get that time?
About 450,000.
About 450,000. So I was challenging everybody at the beginning of this to let's double that. Now, I hope that we still do, because it would send a very clear message that you guys in the legislature, you guys passed this thing, then you went back on your word and you started messing with it to undo it. Don't do this to us again. Are you optimistic that we're going to get what we need, even more so than just the bare minimum?
Absolutely. I believe we're going to be over 400,000 on both of these.
That's amazing. That's
So
great news.
Yeah. And especially, what we didn't have last time, there's this group that's funded by the teachers union called Washington Families for Freedom. And I think it's Washington Families for Fascism might be a better name for them.
I like that. I am stealing that and giving you no credit whatsoever. That's very good. Yeah.
Please do. What we've seen, and there's been people on their phone calls. We've got people that have infiltrated it, and they're actively collecting people. And what they'll say online is like, hey, we want you to go and wherever, first of all, report any place that's collecting signatures, and then sign up to be on these shifts. We're going to go and basically talk and try to persuade people not to sign. So they've got this active campaign. But what we've seen, that's what they're saying online. But what we've seen, and I just got 2 more text messages today, people don't come and just talk. They come and they assault, they steal our pens, they steal our initiative sheets, they disrupt. The teachers union is actively promoting an idea, even if they're saying, hey, don't do anything crazy. The people that they're sending are doing crazy things, and it's really it's illegal. The police aren't sure what to do because they're actually breaking the law. When you interrupt someone that's gathering signatures, it's a misdemeanor here in the state, and the police aren't sure quite how to handle that.
Well, here's something else. Where's Bob Ferguson? Where's Nick Brown? Where's Steve Hobbs? Where's any of them calling this stuff out? Because you've had people get arrested. You had a hit and run. You had an assault. You've had death threats, and yet they're nowhere to be found?
Nowhere. Yesterday, a guy came and got out of his car, ran up and tackled his signature gatherer.
Oh, my God.
And what I'm noticing is that Bob has got an unhealthy obsession with the other Washington. And it seems like all of them, if they would spend time here in this Washington, we might be able to get some stuff done. But they're so focused on the other Washington that I don't even know if they know what state they're in.
Yeah, it seems like that's what's going on now. Actually, I just saw our friend Brandy Cruz posted this, that Andre, one of your signature gatherers who's been assaulted a few times, and he keeps coming back because he believes in this, is right now out at the Issaquah Target, and he's going to be there until 6 o'clock today. So those of you on the east side out near Issaquah, you can head on over to the Issaquah Target, and Andre should be there until 6 o'clock tonight, but we need those signatures in. Brian, I assume the majority of people who come up to these booths, like you said, overwhelmingly positive, want to talk. How many of them didn't know any of this was going on?
Shockingly, a bunch, right? I mean, some of them know that it got passed and like, wait, I thought we already passed this. Mm-hmm. And they didn't know that the legislature had gutted it. The real high awareness is on the girls' sports. That has people pissed off. And the funny thing on this one is that it's not funny. It is a fact. This is not a partisan issue. People that are on the left, in the middle and on the left, do not agree with Olympia on letting boys into girls' sports. Yeah. There's a very loud, angry minority that's making a big deal about this, and they're really lying about what's going on, right? They're saying all kinds of gross things about they've kind of got a genital obsession, which they sort of try to pass on to us. Maybe that's one of the things to correct for any of your listeners out there. They're saying, there's going to be this invasive exam. Already under Washington law, every child that wants to play sports has to get an exam from a physician. Well, there's no inspections at the school, no inspections at a track meet.
Let's clarify that.
Ever go out to sports.
Let's clarify what that inspection is for a second, okay? Because my kids have had to do it because they played sports in high school and stuff. It's their annual physical. And nobody likes their annual physical. It's nothing invasive, but that if you want to play sports, you got to get the note from the doctor that you're healthy enough to play sports, because if you're not healthy enough to play sports and the coach puts you in, guess who's now liable if something happens to you? You can't put Samuel L. Jackson's character from, what is it, the Broken movie, the Unbreakable. You can't put him in from Unbreakable. You can't put Mr. Glass on the football team or else you get sued. So it's a basic thing every kid has to go through. I don't like my annual physical either.
No. Well, and from the time I was in school, the first time, not to get too graphic, but I had to turn my head and cough as I was doing a hernia check, right? and that was like, in order to play sports, that's what I had to do. And I think actually this is a safety issue, to be just a tiny bit serious on this. a trans girl, a boy that's claiming to be a girl, which kind of exam do they get? And if they don't give him a hernia exam, that's medical malpractice, right? I mean, there's all kinds of convoluted, messy things in this stupidity that they're trying to push and trying to claim that something gross is happening when they're the ones with the gross overactive imagination.
Right. Never mind the stuff that they want happening in locker rooms and on sports teams, et cetera, et cetera. In the last few minutes we have with the one and only Brian Heywood from Let's Go Washington. So are you guys concerned that our Attorney General, now Governor, and our new Attorney General might mess with the wording of this initiative like they did last time? Because that kind of messed up some of the initiatives when they went to the ballot.
Yeah, the messing has already been done. The title was decided way back in May when the Attorney General gets to write the title. It's just a patently wrong system, but the Attorney General writes the wording for the title. That's already, and you can see it on any of the sheets. You can see it on our website. It is what it is. What they're able to do last time, there's two bites at the apple they get. If you do something related to taxes or budget, they get an extra bite by putting something on the ballot. This one, it won't go on the ballot is what's already on the sheet. And then secondly, I'll tell you, I don't think it's a zero possibility that the legislature, when we send this to them in January, they do polling. They don't want to do anything on it, but the polling's going to say, oh, crap, if we have these on the ballot in November, this is going to hurt us.
Yeah.
And so it's not a zero possibility that they pass it just to get it off the ballot.
Right. And then they can mess with it again. I mean, might have to do this again and again and again, which is crazy. But it's really God's work you're doing to protect all the girls' sports, to protect parental rights. And what's the best way for people to find out? What's the best way for them to get these initiative sheets in right now? Because they're going away for the holidays. We're worried about it. What's the best way to deal with this?
Go to letsgowa.com, and click the initiatives, and it'll take you to a page with all the turn-in locations. And we've got about I don't know if we're about around 80 turn-in locations around the entire state.
Excellent. And just to remind our listeners, if you're in the Issaquah neighborhood and you're within sound of my voice, head on over to the Issaquah Target because Andre, our local celebrity who came in to collect signatures, is there right now. You get to meet him and you get to sign those signature sheets. Brian Heywood from Let's Go Washington, thank you so much for fighting so hard on behalf of all of us and for joining us today.
Thank you. Appreciate all you do on the air.
Oh, very kind of you to say. Really appreciate you joining us today. Yeah, this is just one of the other shenanigans that the left is pulling around here. I mean, let's not forget what they did with the Climate Commitment Act, where they changed the verbiage and spent a whole bunch of money trying to get people not to vote to repeal this insane tax. Well, what's interesting about this is that wasn't this thing supposed to mitigate flooding? Now, we had Todd Myers on from the Washington Policy Center last week, but we specifically discussed at that time was that one of the reasons behind the Climate Commitment Act was we need to do things to mitigate flooding from climate change. And then they passed this Climate Commitment Act, and it is not mitigating the effects of flooding, regardless of where the flooding is from. Now, you may want to say it's from climate change. Fine, but either way, they're not addressing it. In fact, I got this right here. What is this article? See, when the Seattle Times does its job, it makes me more mad at them because it's so rare, but it shows they can do their job, that when they don't do their job, it makes it even more frustrating. This one here, as rainfall inundated the Pacific Northwest this month, swelling the region's rivers to record levels, the Desimone levee seemed destined to fail. Severe flooding in 2020 had damaged the 2.2-mile earthen barrier near Tukwila. Muddy waters from the Green River bubbled up on the opposite side and seeped into nearby properties. A King County report months later described the levee's weakened state as the most important issue on the river's lower reach. The years that followed were filled with red tape, bureaucratic infighting among the agencies most responsible for the region's levee system, King County, its flood control district, the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers. All the while, cities in the floodplain clamored for help, and the Desimone awaited repair. Construction was set to begin this summer, but the Corps pulled out of the work in January, revoking promised federal funding and setting the project back years, according to interviews and public records obtained by the Seattle Times. Reagan Dunn, chair of the district's advisory committee and a Metropolitan King County council member, described a pattern of tension between the flood control district and the Corps. You mean having bad relationship with the feds doesn't get you what you want? Or how about this? How come you didn't fix this during the Biden administration when you had, quote unquote, good relationships? There's enough blame to go around here for everybody. But once again, it comes down to nobody wanted to deal with it. And now you've got properties that are flooded out. And if the money didn't go to dealing with this kind of stuff, which is what it was supposed to go to, then where did the money actually go? Because this other article here from the Seattle Times says the Washington carbon market revenue, that's all the taxes they charge the oil companies and anybody who's a polluter, a big evil polluter, $4.3 billion. $4.3 billion. When I was driving around Arizona, Mike, yesterday looking for a gas station to fill up my rental car, $3.29. $1 cheaper than here. $3.29. A whole $1 cheaper. I even said to my wife at one point, I said, sweetie, I don't care if we fill up near the airport, even though it's going to be the most expensive one in town. I still feel like I'm saving money. Because, you know, that gas station near the rental car return, it's always the most expensive one. But I'm like, I don't care. I'm living the high life right now. Dollar bills, dollar bills, dollar bills. $4.3 billion they have. Didn't spend it on fixing levees. Are they going to spend it on fixing the roads? Once again, Seattle Times. This is why I get so mad at them. They can do a good job if they want to. Back-to-back weather systems carrying enormous amounts of moisture and warm air pummeled the Seattle region this month, devastating roads as rivers ate away at anything their swollen banks could loosen. Floods raced across normally dry land and landslides spilled across highways. The extreme weather has many pinning the blame on climate change. So, can the state use funds collected from the Climate Commitment Act, which brings in money from polluters with the goal of reducing greenhouse gas emissions, to help repair storm-damaged roads? Depends on who you ask. Quote, they're not intended to be used for road projects, so generally the answer is no, said State Senator Marco Leas, Democrat of Edmonds, chair of the Senate Transportation Committee. Quote, after the damage has occurred, it's not going to help us reduce our emissions. We've already failed to address the problem that's there. Are you kidding me? Okay, if you guys had fixed this, you wouldn't need to bring in all the construction equipment, which is a whole bunch of that polluting stuff, to fix it. Hey, if you bring in all that polluting stuff to fix it this time, you won't have to fix it again and again and again and again. No, Marco Leas just said the quiet part out loud. We don't want to give up our money. We want to swim in it like Scrooge McDuck in a giant vault with a diving board. I don't even know how that's physically possible. You're going to hit your head on that. Scrooge McDuck should be dead by now. Clonked out, too many concussions. It's insane to me. Do you not realize the grift here? It literally was passed with the intention of one of the things it was going to fix to mitigate damage caused by floods from climate change. If you want to blame climate change for all the floods, then the money you collected to mitigate the damage from flooding should go to fix the damage from flooding. If you didn't think this was a grift before, it is clear it is a grift now. We go to the Warrior Injury Law studio line, take a call from our friend Transit Joe. Transit Joe, what's up, man?
What's up is not just do I think we should reform the CCA to flood protection, but instead of wasting some of this money on bicycles and a hydrogen hub, and listen very carefully, we should use the CCA to help fund Elon Musk's robotaxis, electric robotaxis, not just for climate, but also because, did you know paratransit costs $80 to $100 per trip?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Actually, I had this discussion.
Get that down.
Joe, you'd be so proud of me. I met with somebody from one of the taxi commissions years ago. And what they said to me was, we are concerned about Uber, and the reason we want to tax Uber is because they don't provide transportation for people who have disabilities. That's why we need to save the taxis. I said, rather than funding the taxis, which is going the way of the dodo, wouldn't it be cheaper to fund Ubers that have transportation for the handicap? Wouldn't that be a better way to go? Nope, can't do it that way.
Yes.
That's government mentality.
Yes.
That's Democrat mentality.
It is time that we started discussing this openly because, I've protected the CCA because it funds transit. but it's time to fund transit more smartly and start getting more mobility, because that's the end game here. It's not funding unions. It's not funding too many administrators and consultants pigging out while the people who need transit can't get it.
Yeah, and if they're so serious about transit, which they claim they are, they should be listening to you, Joe. You and I may disagree on a lot, but this is something you and I agree on. Appreciate the call. Appreciate you being part of the show. You want to be part of the show, give us a call or text at 206-421-5757. Got a quick minute left for Ted in Kent. Ted, what's going on?
Oh, this is John in Kent.
Oh, sorry, John. Got a quick minute for you. Go ahead, man. What's up?
Okay. Anybody hear anything from Patty Murray about what the hell's going on?
Hang on 1 second. About the flooding, or about what are we talking about?
Oh,
here?
yes.
From Patty
Were
Murray?
you here in 2012?
Hang on 1 second. Let me check in. Yeah, I think she's MIA. I think she shows up for the photo ops and then goes back to yelling about RFK Jr. or Trump or something.
Well, it's got to do with Howard Hanson Dam.
Yeah, she's not dealing with any of that, my friend. Appreciate the call. Appreciate you being part of the show. You want to be part of the show, you give us a call or text at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. When we come back, my friends, a story from Turning Point USA's America Fest where young Zach got to meet one of his celebrity heroes. You'll be surprised who it was. But more than that, after that, we have Andrew Kolvet, who is going to be joining us to discuss Charlie Kirk's legacy at America Fest and give us an overall recap of the festival itself. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. Zach and I are now back from Turning Point USA's America Fest in Phoenix, Arizona. And we each had our wish list of people we wanted to interview and people we wanted to talk to. And there was one person walking around doing interviews where, even though it was Saturday, and I knew I couldn't do the interview because I keep Sabbath and I can't use technology, et cetera, on Saturday, I knew Zach really wanted this interview. So when I see Danica Patrick go walking by and doing the interview circuit, I said, oh my God, I got to go get Zach right away. I think I came running into the room.
Well, there's
to get
more
you.
setup beyond that. We only got this interview because you know a guy who knows a guy.
That's basically what. So let me backtrack then. Let's do that. So what happens is I found out that she was doing an interview with our friend Joe Bob from Turning Point USA. And he said, yeah, she's going to be here in a little bit, but it was the producer of Joe Bob who told me, yeah, the producer of Joe Bob was walking by, and I said, where are you going in such a hurry?
We can name drop. We can name drop Glenn.
It was Glenn. Glenn said, hey, I got to run because I got to go be ready for Danica Patrick. And I said, wait, she's coming to your booth? And he goes, yeah. And I said, my producer is a huge fan because he's a race car driver. So we want to bring him over. So is it cool if we kind of piggyback on you? And he said, absolutely, because we have a really good relationship. Normally, a lot of the people in the biz are kind of possessive of my interview. I don't want them saying the same thing. So I go tearing off to the other side of the convention area.
Like worked up a sweat. Zach, grab your microphone. Let's go. You're going to go talk to Danica Patrick. Come on.
I think the last time I did that was when I saw Andrew Kolvet, Charlie Kirk's producer, wandering the floor. And I'm like, all right, we got to get the microphone. Got to find Zach. Got to do all this.
But that was a game of telephone because I show up and your daughter's like, you're going to talk to Erica Kirk right now.
Yeah, that was a broken telephone game that didn't really work out so well. Anywho, so we find young Zach. We then have to go over to Joe Bob's booth, which is on the other side of the convention hall. Not that big of a walk. I'm making it sound like a bigger walk than it was. What's funny, there's a lineup of people waiting to go meet Brandon Tatum, right?
Yeah.
That's who it was.
Officer Tatum. Yeah, Brandon Tatum.
Exactly. There were some interesting people in that line as well while we are.
Some fallen celebrities, I'll leave it at
We'll
that.
just put it that way. Some fallen celebrities, exactly. But young Zach did get the opportunity to talk to Danica Patrick.
Yeah, so it was very cool. It was very exciting. I don't usually get starstruck because I've interviewed enough politicians and stuff like, Dr. Ben Carson, what an honor. It's fine. But I was pretty excited to get to, I don't know, I don't like talking to, I'd like it, but it makes me nervous talking to people that I can't fake my way through the interview
I gotcha.
at all.
Yeah.
And I can hold my own in political conversations, but race car conversations are a little more difficult. So I was pretty nervous, but I got to, interview Danica Patrick. But we did talk shop later, but I'll start with, I did my job. I did talk to her about the issues at hand concerning, Washington state voters. So I talked to her a little bit about the initiative that seems like it's probably going to make it onto the ballot here for or is that an announcement?
So here's the thing.
Well,
it looks like right now, let's do this right now just because people are going to be asking. There's 3 initiatives out there. There's the 2 Let's Go Washington initiatives, and then there's the GOP initiative for voter ID. The 2 for Let's Go Washington, 1 to keep boys out of girls' sports, the other one for parental rights. Those 2 are on track right now. The one that's running behind is the one for voter ID.
Okay, thanks for the update and clarification.
Yes.
So this will probably be a conversation for a different time, but Big Mike thinks too many initiatives, brand confusion.
I would, we'll expand on that later, I'd say.
No comment.
Yeah, no comment.
Well, 2 of these are going to make it, and 1 probably isn't.
Yes, exactly.
But so I got to talk to her about biological men competing in women's sports, given her unique situation as I say in the interview, a presumed biological woman competing in a male sport. So we can listen to that before we talk about the fun stuff. All right, I'm here at Turning Point USA's America Fest in Phoenix, Arizona with a very special guest, NASCAR, IndyCar legend Danica Patrick. In Washington State, we're right now working to get an initiative on the ballot for voters about protecting the sanctity of biological women's sports. And so that's for high school sports. It's looking like it's going to make the ballot, and Washington voters will have the opportunity to vote that into law. I wanted to get your thoughts on this, given that you're kind of the exemption to what we always hear about being the issue of biological men competing in women's sports. You're, I presume, a biological woman who got to compete in a male-dominated field. What are your thoughts on this issue and what Washington voters can do to push this through into law?
Sure. Well, thank you. And yeah, I think this is always an interesting perspective because I was a girl in a guy sport. But I am absolutely 100% on board with the fact that men's sports should be men, women should be women. There shouldn't be that crossover. There's no claiming that you're a woman when you're a man. That's the biology wins. And so I didn't try and compete in racing as a guy. I was a girl, and that's what it was. That's what was happening. So no, and especially when you're talking about men participating in women's sports that has to do with strength and size and endurance, that's something that is not comparable because hormones are completely different. Men have 10 times the amount of testosterone as women, which is what helps you produce muscle mass and be a different specimen than a woman. So it's totally unfair, and I feel for all the women in the sports that have been affected over the last, I don't know how many years it's really been a problem. What, probably 3, 5 years,
in Washington State, probably 5. I think we have cases about 5 years dating back.
Yeah, I mean, that's, that will forever take away from those years that they spent competing as a woman in sports when it was taken from them. So thank God we're getting back to some rational thought here, and I guess we have to add more language. Right now it's biological, Mick.
Which the fact that this is even an issue or a quote issue is insane that we're having this discussion right now.
I think it will be over soon. I've always thought that this is one of those issues that seems ludicrous and that will be absolutely rectified once we get the right people in power with the right power to make the changes from a legislative standpoint.
Excellent. That's great.
Yeah, she agreed. I was nervous how that was going to go. That's not usually an issue she talks all that much about.
What's funny is I was nowhere near when this was happening. We're at the same booth. I'm standing outside, and the conversation was so close.
Towering over Danica Patrick.
Oh, I'm getting there. She is so tiny. She is a very, very small person, and you are pretty tall, at least for me, because us Jews aren't very, very
I'll post
tall.
the picture on KVI.
It's funny. It's a
pretty funny picture.
Yeah, Zach is the tallest of us here in the office, so it is one of those things. When you see those size comparisons, it's always like, is she really short or is he really tall? In this case, the answer is yes.
Yes. Exactly. So I couldn't hear any of this. But the funniest thing for me was seeing your reaction to her questions, especially with what happened after that.
Yeah, so after we talked, politics, and after I did my job, no one stopped me, so I started fangirl. And so in my very first race, I haven't talked about this on air much, but I was in a pretty bad wreck. I'm fine. My car was fine. The other driver sustained some injuries. He's made a recovery, but I showed her the video, and I got her to wait. She does a lot of Formula One and IndyCar and NASCAR commentating also, so she got to weigh in and kind of review the wreck and cleared me of fault, which was fun or vindicating. And then I was looking for some advice, how to. I've gotten back behind the wheel once, but I get freaked out anytime someone passes me. So I asked her about that, and she just, with the quickness, as you would say, Mike says, well, I don't think this is for you. I was hoping for some sort of inspirational, just get back out there. Keep doing it. You'll get there.
Yeah.
Nope.
Tussle, chase your dreams. Don't let go of your dreams.
Yes.
But yeah, instead it's
the smallest woman in the world looks up to me and goes, yeah, maybe not for you. And then I said, well, what about, I was thinking maybe I'd just start driving something with fenders because the cars I was driving were open wheel, which are a little more dangerous. And she goes, yeah, sure, you could try that.
So what's funny is watching all this, your face, you didn't have like this ashen look on it.
Yeah.
You were finding all this entertaining as it was happening because I'm watching your reaction. You're kind of laughing. I don't know if it was awkward laughter because I'm on the other side, but it was.
I was stunned because I assumed, every athlete gives the same stump speech. Oh, just keep working at it. You'll get there one day. Anyone can make it to the big leagues, and just shut down so fast.
It was funny because you come out of the booth where you were doing this little interview. I'm standing to the side talking to the producers and Joe Bob and everybody, and you come out, you're like, you're not going to believe what just happened.
Yeah, so that's my new claim to fame. Danica Patrick told me to quit.
That should be your Twitter thing right there, your Twitter bio.
I just think that she just happens to be a listener of the show. She's a fan of the morning ride, of the Ari Hoffman show and everything we do on Talk Radio 570 KVI. So she's just like, you're like, Danica Patrick.
Aaron Rodgers turned her on to it.
Oh, Fred.
No, boo.
We were doing so well.
What's wrong?
But I was just going to say, she's like, you know what, Zach, I'm going to give you some advice. I'm going to invoke the spirit of Dr. Evil. And it's like, should I get back behind the wheel of the car? And Danica Patrick's all like,
How about no?
was basically it.
Now I'm going to do it anyway.
Yeah. Now, Zach, also one last thing is that I had my list of people I got. I got some. I didn't get others just because of the chaos and craziness of a massive convention. That was the one you wanted.
That was it.
There were some other ones you're like, oh, it'd be really funny if we had this guy on the show, like Madison Cawthorn goes wheeling by. Hey, let's grab him. Or, Roger Stone's walking around looking like the Penguin, all dapper, like, hey, let's get him. But for you, this is exactly. For you, this is the one you wanted. This is that you have now accomplished everything you wanted at Turning Point.
I had one goal, and I'm batting 1,000 on the interviews I was looking to get.
Well, thank you, Zach. You are a good traveling companion. Thank you so much for all the help.
Thanks for setting up my Turning Point Dream interview.
Yeah, no problem whatsoever. I was so excited to tell you she was out there. I knew how much this meant to you. We got a whole lot more to discuss as the show continues. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. Well, I'm still trying to keep my eyes open because I'm absolutely exhausted after coming back from Turning Point USA's America Fest in Phoenix, Arizona. And there was one interview I was trying to get the whole time, and luckily enough, I was able to get it when I get back to Seattle. Saw him briefly at the convention itself. We are talking, of course, about Andrew Kolvet, who is the executive producer of The Charlie Kirk Show and one of the spokespeople for Turning Point USA. Andrew, thanks so much for having us this weekend, man.
Oh, Ari, are you kidding me? It was an honor to have you there, and yes, you're right. You and I kept trying to sync up when we were at the event, but I always tell people I'm pretty much like a chicken with his head cut off at these things, running from one place to the next, and there's just so much going on. But anyways, I said, listen, let's do it. Let's do it the Monday after, and we'll probably have some more insights to share with you. And so I'm excited to get into it because there's even more news being made today.
Well, I'll tell you this. I'll just start with this, is that my daughter was with me, and it's the first time she's been on a Turning Point convention. She's starting a Turning Point chapter at her Jewish school here in Seattle, and
Amazing.
She was over the moon to meet you. She was so excited, and that meant everything to her that she got to do that.
Oh, well, bless her, and that means a lot to me, too. And, yeah, it's interesting because if you look on social media, you might be convinced that that everything's so divided and so contentious. And, I think what people realize when you're in real life, the IRL experience is just how united everybody is, how much we all share together, how much people love this country, that they love President Trump, they love J.D. Vance, and there's so much more that unites the movement, including the memory of Charlie, his legacy. I think we're all kind of in that place of we're still mourning, we're still grieving. Not sure that'll ever go away, but man, if there's anybody worth remembering and trying to live up to the model that he left us, that would be Charlie Kirk. And so you could feel that spirit inside the conference, and you could feel it within the attendees, and you could feel it from most of the speakers. I think some people, they got on stage and they aired some grievances. They're celebrating Festivus instead of Christmas. But I always tell everybody, just let it play out. Don't be afraid of a little disagreement, a little healthy family business. What we're trying to do, I think, as a movement, a turning point, is find that healthy center cut, Ari, that dominant core middle that is a winning coalition, that is going to give us the ability to bring the maximum number of people into the coalition with ideas we actually believe in, right? And the ideas that actually work and that we can get behind. And I think when you had J.D. Vance cap us off as the last speaker of the event after, Don Jr. and Glenn Beck and Nicki Minaj and Erica Kirk, and then you had, J.D. Vance just give one of the most morally clear messages, that there's no room for anti-Semitism, there's no room for racism. We don't judge people by the color of their skin, but we're back to merit. We're back to letting the best ideas, the best people advance and win. And so that's it was great to hear, and it just felt kind of like, hey, Dad's home, settle down, kids. Let's focus on the work at hand. And man, the attendees reacted and responded with near unanimity in their support for J.D. Vance.
I think it was really amazing to watch that because normally I've been going to America Fest for the last 5 years. And normally there's tons of congressional candidates around. And I'm not going to say there weren't this time, but it seemed like the emphasis was on 2028, not so much for the midterm elections. Was that intentional, or was that something that just by J.D. Vance being the force that he is, that's how it came across?
I think that's just how it came across. I mean, we had obviously Speaker Mike Johnson there on the final day as well, and he kind of carried the weight for a lot of that discussion. And we had Anna Paulina Luna, and we had Mike Collins. I mean, there was a whole bunch of congressional folks that were there. If I'm being honest with you, it was kind of probably more of a reflection of Charlie's dissatisfaction with Congress in the final years. We used to try and book congressmen and women on the show, and he'd be like, skip it, waste of rations, call me back when they're actually getting stuff done. And so, there was probably a little bit of that in there. And, but listen, there's amazing men and women in the U.S. House, and we need them. We need them to do the job well. And I think Speaker Johnson, I was talking to him backstage. I mean, he's got some great momentum there, great candidate selection ahead of the midterm. So we're in a good place on that. And, I think the prevailing wisdom is that we're not going to win the midterms or something. And I'm with Speaker Johnson and J.D. Vance that there is no darn good reason why we can't win these midterms. There's a lot of reasons why we can. And I think when you start seeing some of the, momentum and some of the fruit from the policy shifts and in Trump's first year, we're going to really start seeing a lot of those policies take effect and bear fruit. And I think we're going to have a lot more momentum than people think.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think a lot of people are calling this one early, and I think that if the economy continues to improve, I think you're going to see a big change. We're talking with Andrew Kolvet, who is the executive producer for the Charlie Kirk Show, and definitely one of the most amazing spokespeople Turning Point USA could have, especially after I saw him going all over the place this weekend. So just switching gears for a minute, a lot of what was going on this weekend with the tent, with the microphone on the stage, clearly Charlie's presence was being felt in that room. Everybody was talking about him. His presence was definitely missed. But you probably have some behind-the-scenes stories. There's something that really related to me. I just finished reading Charlie's book about keeping the Sabbath, and I remember Charlie talking a while ago when he was first going out there and talking about keeping the Sabbath was that all these things happen on Saturday, and he didn't know about it. And that really resonated with me because my phone's off on Saturday. Was that an ongoing problem for you guys where you couldn't get a hold of him, or you always knew how to find him?
Well, Charlie was good about the discipline of the Sabbath. And, yeah, that was the one day that he would turn his phone off from Friday night to Saturday night. And it was honestly, it was great when he started practicing that discipline. Charlie wasn't Jewish, but he used sort of some of the, input from guys like Dennis Prager to use that as a model for how he could kind of turn off and settle in, focus on his family, focus on his relationship with the Lord. And that allowed him to use Sunday to kind of prep for Monday, right? And so Saturday was the best day that fell in the week for him to do that. And, there was moments where we couldn't get a hold of Charlie and something would come up and that was just the way it was. And he was really committed to it. But it was good for his team, too. That's one of the things that I tell people. It was like as soon as Charlie started taking an actual Sabbath, it was good for us. It was good for the team because we got to have a Sabbath, too. We weren't constantly trying to chase our tails and chase down whatever Charlie needed us to do next. And so it ended up being good for our families, good for our mental health, good for our work-life balance. So I definitely recommend every organization should try and practice that. Friday night, spend it with the family. Saturday night, spend it with the family. Tomorrow has plenty to worry about on its own. Focus on the here and now and be present with your family. It's such a huge discipline and pays massive dividends.
That's beautiful. That's absolutely beautiful. In the last few minutes we have with Andrew Kolvet, who's the executive producer of the Charlie Kirk Show and one of the amazing spokespeople for Turning Point USA. This weekend, I can only imagine how much behind-the-scenes stuff. I've run conventions for 400 people, not for 30,000 people. I can only imagine how much planning and went into it. How much was Charlie part of the discussion? I mean, I imagine there's plenty of things he said, this is how we always do it, this is how we're going to always do it. But the discussion behind the scenes about Charlie's involvement, what would Charlie have wanted, how much was that a factor in what happened this weekend?
Oh, I mean, it's the guiding light. People were, it's funny. I saw some people criticizing night one, like, why would you put this person next to this person on night one? And it was like, well, that's what Charlie wanted. Charlie actually set the lineup on night one. So it's like, if you have an issue, take it up with Charlie, I guess, But listen, I think it was a healthy family business gathering, and we're working out some stuff right now, but that's okay. Don't be afraid of it. And but throughout the event, it's like there's people. When you have an event this big, there's always going to be a critic. Everybody, like I said, we're trying to find that center cut, that center winning coalition that's going to be able to take us to victory in 2026, 2028. And when you have that, you're going to have people on either, one fringe or the other fringe trying to pull it in the other direction. They tend to get the most attention, and they tend to be the loudest voice in the room. But it's, listen, Charlie was about big tent politics. He was about, he had a bright line on things like, hey, there's no room in the conservative movement for Jew hate. There's no room for, in the conservative movement for this racist, stuff that you sometimes see percolating on the internet. So we have those bright lines, and Charlie created a lot of those boundaries. We're going to honor those and maintain them. But we're going to be a movement that is about winning elections. We want to win, and we believe that conservative ideas and principles are the way to get to victory. We think our ideas work the best. So, it's not always easy or a straight line. It's not always super clean. Sometimes it gets messy, and my message to everybody is just like, embrace it. Embrace it. We are not hive-minded communists. Like we are a rowdy bunch on the right. We're independent thinkers, and may the best idea win. Let's go.
Andrew, I couldn't have said it better myself. That's really a great sentiment to cap this off with. And I just want to say congratulations again on pulling off just an incredible, incredible event. You know, in 5 years, this is my first time in the main room. My producer said, you got to go see this thing because I'm always so busy doing interviews. It was incredible. And I see why kids resonate, why this resonates so much with kids, why everybody's drawn to it. You guys did a phenomenal job carrying on Charlie's legacy. And thank you so much for having us this weekend.
Well, thank you, Ari. And I didn't mention it. I don't know if I could squeeze this in, but we got the results of the straw poll back today, and it's like 87% of attendees support Israel, consider it an important ally of the country. I know that's an issue near and dear to your heart. And we also found that 84.2% of people want J.D. Vance to be the GOP nominee ahead of 2028. I know it's early, but that's a pretty remarkable result for a crowd that size. So there is clarity coming out of this event, and I think we're going to just have more and more. It's the beginning of that clarity, and I look forward to 2026. I think we have a lot of momentum.
That's amazing. That's amazing to hear. Thank you so much for sharing it with us. Andrew Kolvet, executive producer for The Charlie Kirk Show. Thank you so much for being with us, and thank you so much again for having us this weekend.
Thanks, Ari. God bless you.
We got a whole lot more to discuss as the show continues. You're listening to I am holding in my hands the results of the survey Andrew just told me about, and it tells us who the front runner for 2026 and 2028 are. We have a lot of great information here. We'll bring it to you when we come back. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. Welcome to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI, your home for the politically homeless, streaming live at KVI.com and the KVI app. If you want to be part of the most dangerous show on the airwaves, call or text the Warrior Injury Law Studio line at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. Coming up this hour, Travis Couture, representative of the Washington legislature, tells us how we can actually fix our budget issues without raising taxes. But before we get to any of that, Andrew Kolvet, Charlie Kirk's executive producer, in our last segment, told me about this new survey that they did for Turning Point attendees for the America Fest convention Zach and I just got back from. I actually got an email about it, and I thought, am I really an attendee or am I a member of the media? And I said, for these purposes, I'm a member of the media because I can't weigh in on the convention itself because I experienced so little of it. I was at the booth a lot. I was doing interviews a lot. I was doing the Jewish stuff a lot. So I couldn't really weigh on that. I didn't feel right about it. I saw the questions, though, and I was curious about how this was going to come out. Now, it's interesting what he revealed in the last segment, that over 87% of attendees see Israel as an ally of the U.S. That goes against the narrative of, oh, well, everybody's divided on this. No, it actually backs up my theory that it's being used as a wedge issue to try and divide people, especially online. So there's that. However, there's something else that's interesting in this, and it's a little weighted, but we'll get there. So what happens? J.D. Vance is the overall favorite, I mean by huge numbers, by 82.6% of attendees at America Fest. They want J.D. Vance as the next president, as the nominee in 2028. Now, first of all, you have to weigh this out for a second. The other people on this list, let's just see who's on here. Ron DeSantis, Vivek Ramaswamy, undecided Nikki Haley or somebody else, or Chris Christie. I would have put Marco Rubio on that list. So first of all, looking at the list itself, I would have put him on there. I would have put Tulsi Gabbard on there. That would have been a little bit more interesting because Vivek Ramaswamy spoke at America Fest. Normally, the person who speaks at the thing is going to get a bump, and that's why Vivek Ramaswamy is above all these other categories. So it goes it goes up top. They're excited about J.D. Vance, right? And then comes the rest it's not even close. So J.D. Vance is the overall overwhelming favorite, but also he closed out the convention. Also, let's remember this. How'd the convention start? Erica Kirk comes out on stage, and she says this.
We're going to ensure that President Trump has Congress for all 4 years. We are going to get my husband's friend, J.D. Vance, elected for 48 in the most resounding way possible.
The guy closes the conference. He's got Erica Kirk's endorsement from Charlie Kirk's endorsement. His friend, of course, he's going to have numbers like that, of course. Look, barring some unforeseen catastrophe, it's his to lose at this point. It really, really is. I love Marco Rubio. I love Ron DeSantis. I would love to see them team up. I think it's a J.D. Vance show, and the question is, who is he going to pick? And it would be smart if it's Marco Rubio. In fact, you know what would be really, really smart? If there's kind of a nice primary way to do this rather than them tearing each other's heads off, then you wouldn't have to waste all that money on the primary, and it can all go towards the general. I'm not seeing anybody deserves this on a silver platter. Plus, we're 3 years away. Actually, we're 2 years away. So a lot can happen between now and then. But I think without a disaster, this is a foregone conclusion. Now, I want to know what you think about J.D. Vance. Give us a call or a text at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. Mike knows this. I kind of like J.D. Vance, and then I'm unsure about J.D. Vance. And then I love J.D. Vance, and then I'm unsure about J.D. Vance. And a lot of people really loved his speech to close out AmFest. I may be the exception to the rule where I didn't love the speech. I liked parts of it. I did like parts of it, but I didn't think it was what I normally get out of J.D. Vance. I normally get more analytical. And what happens is you're trying to cut them up into sound bites, and you lose the analysis, and you take one line, and people take it out of context, goes, see, he hates Jews, see, he hates Israel, see, he feels this way. No. Usually when I listen to the whole thing, I go, you idiots. You're just parroting talking points. That's not what he said. And I've actually become one of his big defenders, even though I'm not quite sure how I feel about him as the nominee for president. I'm still making up my own mind. It's a journey. It's a process. It's a process. So let's analyze the speech. Let's analyze what he actually said. This was one of the big ticket lines he said right off the top, right at the beginning. He said this.
When I say that I'm going to fight alongside of you, I mean all of you, each and every one. President Trump did not build the greatest coalition in politics by running his supporters through endless, self-defeating purity tests. He says, make America great again because every American is invited.
I'm not sure that's entirely true. With President Trump, he has some purity tests. Are you loyal to the cause? Are you loyal to him? He does have those purity tests. Look, he did a great thing by getting RFK Jr. on board and getting all these other people on board and building this huge coalition. But make no mistake about it, you get on the wrong side of President Trump and you're going to be booted out of that coalition, as Mike would say, with the quickness. So I'm not sure what he just said is 100% true. I get what J.D. Vance was trying to do by saying we all need to come together, but then you know what you say? We all need to come together. And then call out how this issue of Israel is being used to divide everybody. Call out how there are bad faith actors that are trying to divide everybody. And I never really got that. I didn't get that in the speech. What else did J.D. Vance say?
Unlike the left, we stand against treating anybody, and I love what Nikki said about this. We don't treat anybody different because of their race or their sex. So we have relegated DEI to the dustbin of history, which is exactly where it belongs. In the United States of America, you don't have to apologize for being white anymore. And if you're an Asian, you don't have to talk around your skin color when you're applying for college, because we judge people based on who they are, not on ethnicity and things they can't control. We don't persecute you for being male, for being straight, for being gay, for being anything. The only thing that we demand is that you be a great American patriot, and if you're that, you are very much on our team.
I absolutely love that, and I love how the left had a meltdown over it. What are they mad about? The white thing. Do you realize that kids are taught in school if you're white, you're racist, that you're inherently born into sin? And I don't mean in the Jesus way. I mean because you're responsible for slavery, even if your ancestors had nothing whatsoever to do with it. That there's something wrong with you if you're a cisgender white male. You know, we talk about all the problems that women have to deal with where they're being persecuted and not allowed to vote and all that. That's 100% true. But it seems like the left has been trying the past few years, I'd say the last, 8 to 10 years, to make you feel less than just because you're a white guy, as if something's wrong with you. That resonates, that hits home with a lot of people. But also saying it doesn't matter your creed and bringing up the Asian thing, that's brilliant. Because Asians have been so marginalized where they say, well, we like the Hispanics and we like the blacks. That's what the left says. You know, we like all these different groups, but you Asians, forget about you, and we're going to limit how many of you get to go to college, et cetera, et cetera. It was such a takedown of DEI, and the left doesn't understand when they go, oh, he's a racist, he's a white supremacist. They don't understand that's exactly why people like this guy in the first place. Here's what came next, though.
More than any time I can recount, people are talking about American identity and figuring out what it is that unites us. But I want to say something here. The only thing that has truly served as an anchor of the United States of America is that we have been, and by the grace of God, we always will be, a Christian nation.
Now, I have to give some context to what he said. Sunday morning, it was a revival. It was pastor, pastor, pastor. That was the program because Sunday people go to church. You're in an organization that in years past, I knew the faith element was there, but this year it was Christian. Christian. That's who you're talking to at Turning Point USA this year. There were Jewish booths. There were other booths too, but it was heavily Christian. And you know what? America is a Christian country. It wasn't founded as a Christian country. We are a Christian country. What holiday do we get off for? Christmas, New Year's. It's as simple as that. We are our entire holiday season, what we're going through right now. I'm a Jew who lives in a Christian country. I don't expect everybody to keep the Jewish stuff. I do think, however, if he had put in one word, it could have taken away the left's argument. One word. If he said we are built on Judeo-Christian values, I think it would have done a lot to calm down a lot of the people who lost it over this. I'm not one of the ones who lost it over this. I'm really not. I know the history of our country, and I know the First Amendment, and I know that we're fine, but guess what, guys? We get Easter off. We get Christmas off. Well, can we be real about what country we're living in here? Yes, we have freedom of religion. We have freedom to do whatever religion you want. I think if he had just put in the Judeo-Christian thing and say how Christian was built on the Judeo things, it would have taken so much wind out of the left's sails because they love to go nuts about that. And you would have said, what's wrong with what he said? I'm going to reiterate this. There's nothing wrong with what he said. He's right. However, you know what the left's going to do with it. In fact, he actually called that out at one point in his speech. So, what else did he say?
So if you love America, if you want all of us to be richer, stronger, safer, and prouder, you have a home on this team.
Yeah, 100% right. 100% right. That was actually a good theme he had wrapping this thing up.
The fruits of true Christianity are good husbands, patient fathers, builders of great things, and slayers of dragons. And yes, men who are willing to die for a principle if that's what God asks them to do. Because so many of us recognize that it is better to die a patriot than live a coward.
You know, he did a lot of talking about national identity, and he said we don't have a national identity, and it's been sucked out of us for so long, we don't have one, and he's 100% right. He's 100% right. What does it mean to be American? We've let the left define it for too long. The left wants to get religion out of everything. He called that out. He called that out when he was talking about religion. He literally did, and he did a great job of it. I mean, it was really an incredible part of his speech when he was doing that. Here's what he said a little bit later after the Christian part.
Now, I want to be explicit because, of course, the fake news media will twist everything that I say. I'm not saying... Do you feel about them the same way I do? I'm not saying you have to be a Christian to be an American. I'm saying something simpler and truer. Christianity is America's creed. The shared moral language from the Revolution to the Civil War and beyond. Across that history, our country's major debates have always centered on how we could best as a people please God. That creed, think about it. That creed motivated our understanding of natural law and rights, our sense of duty to one's neighbor, the conviction that the strong must protect the weak, and the belief in individual conscience. Even our famously American idea of religious liberty is a Christian concept. Because we're all creatures of God, we must respect each individual's pathway to that God. But over the last 50 years, there has been a singular focus, a war that has been waged on Christians and Christianity in the United States of America. And let me say, of all the wars that Donald Trump has ended, that is the one we're proudest of.
He's 100% right, and he's preaching to the choir. I think a little bit of the phrasing changing a little bit might have made people who aren't Christian feel a little bit more welcome, but the media is going to go nuts over this. They're going to go absolutely bonker. In fact, they already have gone, oh, white men, Christian men, white, nationalist, whatever. I think a little tweaking, you get there. But you're talking to the choir and you're preaching to the choir, and that's how you get them to sing. And that's what J.D. Vance was doing, and that's why a lot of people love this speech so much. For me, if you're a Christian, you're already born on third base because you got a lot of that from us, and I'm fine with that. I think that America being a more Christian place, a more moral place, being a more religious place, I have no issue with that whatsoever. I don't. The left is going to go bonkers crazy, absolutely bonkers crazy. But then he gave everybody their marching orders after that.
If you miss Charlie Kirk, do you promise to fight what he died for? Do you promise to take the country back from the people who took his life? Do you promise to help defeat the radicals who cheered his death? Do you promise to honor his memory by having faith in the God he loved? My friends, commit to these things, and I promise you victory. I promise you closed borders and safe communities. I promise you good jobs and a dignified life. Only God can promise you salvation in heaven, but together we can fulfill the promise of the greatest nation in the history of the earth. Merry Christmas, my friends. Let's keep fighting.
And that's why he's going to be the nominee, because he knows how to speak to the base. That's why. Now, my question is, what do you think? Yes, no, maybe so. Give us a call or a text at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. Because I got to say, I like J.D. Vance. I think him and I are maybe 20, 30% apart. But that 20, 30%, I don't know for sure if we're apart or not. It's some things I'm a little cautious about. It's the things that I'm not sure how he feels on yet, and I kind of want more. And I think that's what's holding me back from going all in on J.D. Vance. Because sometimes he says things that I go, he gets it. And sometimes he says things where I'm like, does he though? And that's what I'm watching. I'm not saying no to J.D. Vance. I'm not saying disliking J.D. Vance. I'm saying cautiously optimistic. And I know some of you are like, yeah, let's go. I get it. And I get why you're like that. For me, there's a few little things here and there. And I'll just tell you this. There are a few things here and there about President Trump, and we went all in on President Trump, didn't we? You know, there's some things about Ron DeSantis that we liked. There's some things we knew were shortcomings. Question is, going into this, who are you backing? Let us know what you think, and also let me know what the perfect matchup you think would be. Give us a call or text at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. When we come back, my friends, me and young Zach recap our entire weekend at Turning Point USA with a few stories here and there you haven't heard yet. We'll have that for you, plus a whole lot more. But first, Todd Herman's Daily Thoughtcast, right now on The Ari Hoffman Show. Back from Turning Point USA's America Fest. There are a few things I didn't realize. I didn't realize that the first time I went to Turning Point USA's big convention, it was one of the first times it was quote-unquote America Fest. I didn't realize it had been the Student Action Summit and it had been in a different location. It got turned into this big thing. And one of the complaints Zach had, which we discussed on Friday, was that they started letting all the grown-ups in. And there was actually a post on social media that I saw from Turning Point USA that said, "We are so proud that over a third of the attendees are students." And that kind of plays into what we were discussing, which was, isn't this an organization for kids? Isn't this an organization for students? I mean, Zach, the amount of people who came over to our booth who were rando people trying to become influencers or trying to become politicians who are grown-ups was a little bonkers crazy. As somebody who went through the Turning Point USA system, I guess, for lack of a better word, what did you think of this?
Yeah, well, I was going to start with reading just this is the Wikipedia definition, but the first sentence on Wikipedia. Turning Point USA is an American nonprofit organization that advocates for conservative politics on high school, college, and university campuses. Done. Right. That's who it's for.
Mm-hmm. And we saw 2/3 of that was adults at this thing.
They admitted that 2/3 of that was adults.
Right. So is this the kind of thing where now they're transitioning where they go, okay, this is paying our bills or this is our big annual fundraiser and the kids are invited too, which is kind of the impression I was getting.
Absolutely. And I told you that first time we went together 5 years ago. When I was talking to some other people I knew at America Fest who have been in the Turning Point system, like you said, for a very long time. We were reminiscing on one of the first student action summits, as it was called back then. They used to be in Florida because I think a lot of it, too, was financing. You needed to get the most amount of kids to this convention as you possibly could. And the East Coast there's more people on the East Coast than there are the West Coast, certainly more conservatives, especially Florida, pull the South over and whatever. And in those days, I think they still do to some extent, but I don't know that I ever paid for a flight or hotel or anything. They would subsidize. They put a lot of the donation money that they were getting into getting kids to come to their conference. And to some extent, they don't need to do that anymore. But just talking to some people about the size of the event that it used to be, it was 4,000 or 5,000 people, maybe 3,000 to 5,000 people, all kids. To the point it was borderline reckless, I thought. But nothing ever went wrong. Nothing went wrong, but it felt, and that's what was so magical about it when I first started going, was that you were there with the fact that there was even 3,000 to 5,000 like-minded conservative youth was a powerful thing to see at the time.
Well, especially for you, Zach, and your friends being in one of the darkest, bluest parts of the country. So to see, it's like, oh, I'm not on an island by myself, and there's other people like me that have the same values I do. Yeah. That's pretty cool.
And that first year in college, I go from South Pierce County, where, we're still even in Washington State, there's Democrats, but I've never thought about it. Never in my life have I thought about it. I've never thought that a socialist existed. Mm-hmm. And then you go to college and in Seattle at University of Washington, you're just smacked in the face with communism. And then you get to go at the end of that first quarter at UW, you get to go and hang out with thousands of conservative youth. That's really moving. And so now it's still great that they get to go down and do a similar sort of conference, but you're joined with, it's 30,000 people now. It's massive.
It's so big, they have outgrown the convention center they're in for sure. The fire marshal had to shut down the exhibit hall at one point. Now, I think that was because Erica Kirk, as you told me, was doing a panel because they didn't fit the other room they put that one in.
Because they ran out of room for these breakout sessions. So it's huge, and it's still great that the kids get to talk to 10,000 other, like-minded youth, but they're also there with 20,000 conservative adults, and I just don't know if that has the same impact on a
I think there's a better way to go with this going forward.
Yeah.
If it's going to be your big fundraiser for the adults, what you do is you say, kid, here's your ticket, here's your seat. You are assigned to row F, seat 1 for the convention, so you never have a problem. And pick the sessions you want to go to. First come, first serve, based on sign-up. So you want to go to Riley Gaines, you want to go to Jack Posobiec, whatever. Here's your spot. Then let the olds in. Or here's your overflow room where you can hear the speech.
Nope, don't let them in.
Or I would say don't let them in. In a perfect world, I understand where they're coming from.
I don't think it's a youth organization. There's no other youth organization that would just let this many adults in. You would never. I'm still going to call it the Boy Scouts, and if someone wants to text in and fight me, they're welcome to do so. But you would never say well, all right, the Boy Scouts are going hiking, and we're also bringing 2/3 of random adults with us to also go hiking because they want to go hiking too. That would never happen.
That's a great point. And actually, something you said to me the first year, I don't know if you remember this.
Did your youth group ever say, well, we're going to the zoo, and 2/3 of the congregation want to go too, so we're going to bring them with us? Did that ever happen?
Funny you mention it. Funny you mentioned that, because this is exactly what I was thinking of when we were talking about it. There was one guy in my organization who was more interested in the fundraising. And what he would do is he would invite the adults on everything because he wanted the donors to go, look at the kids and how Jewish they're getting and everything. I'm going to write you more money. But those events were never as much fun because the adults were there. And the story that I remember you telling me the first year, you said some kid stood up on a chair in the big hall.
This is the first year we went together.
The first year we went together.
This is the first year that they let all the adults in.
Right. And you told me the story about how you were in the room and this old lady starts yelling at the kid who's standing on the chair.
Yeah, these aren't during speeches. They're doing concerts after the speeches.
Right.
So it's like a rock concert.
That's what you do at a rock concert.
And there's no excessive drinking. I mean, it's everything's totally fine. Kid's standing on a chair and he's getting yelled at by somebody's mom.
Right. Exactly. I've put my wife on chairs at rock concerts because she's so short before. She going to get yelled at by somebody's mom?
Probably.
Yeah. So I'll say is that for me, if you're going to prioritize the kids, they still have the Student Action Summit in Florida in the summer. They still have the girls.
Which is also, they let the adults
into. They have the girls thing, which also they let the adults into. The girls thing, I forget. I think it's in like February or March or something like that.
Yeah.
But is it a kid organization or is it something else?
Pick a lane.
Right.
And if you decide you're not a youth organization anymore, then so be it.
Now, on the positive side, for the first time ever, I got in the main room. And Zach made it his mission to get me in the main room on the last day. That was Zach. So with the pyrotechnics and the smoke and the giant screen. Exactly, right? Go in that room. And when I went in there, I went, now I get it. Because my daughter was just bright-eyed, bushy-tailed, looking at everything, wow, when she wasn't on her cell phone. But, looking everywhere, looking at all that, you can't walk in that room and not be inspired and not be brought into that. They have a formula in that room, and it works. It's something. You want to be part of that. And even as an adult, Zach got 2 pictures I'm going to put up on social media of my keeper that says the Ari Hoffman Show underneath the big sign there. But you just feel something. And of course, there's the funny moment where it took a while before Nicki Minaj came out and we didn't know it was Nicki Minaj. So
these events are notorious for having a big surprise guest.
Right. So we're waiting, and normally they're running like little infomercials or little
and
commercials.
Usually the surprise is not that big of a surprise.
Right. And we're waiting, and then my daughter's checking the group chat. And one of them says something like, oh, well, the live stream says we'll be back in 30 minutes. So we go, screw it. We're out of here.
This is the last time we trust teenagers.
Ever. We walk out of the room, and then we hear a big explosion of kids like, oh, the program's coming back, right? And then we're in the other room.
Instead of the Turning Point music, they chime in with some Nicki Minaj.
Exactly. And who comes out now? Zach had actually thought it might be Nicki Minaj at one point.
Yeah,
and then that's what happens.
I don't know, but it was as if there was a game-winning touchdown for an SEC team. It was because a lot of the Turning Point staffers and other, there were some youth working some other booths and stuff that were there as exhibitors. So they were all watching from the media row hall, exhibitor hall that we were in. And Nicki Minaj comes out and just the energy of, you have Ari going, who? What? Huh? And every kid's got their hands up and they're like, no way. This, yes, she did. Yes, she did. Somebody please tell her who the F she is. I mean, it was crazy.
Okay, I knew who Nicki Minaj was. I could not name a single Nicki Minaj song.
Well, that was super bass. There's a good start.
Yeah,
your tweets tell me otherwise.
Nicki Montage.
Nicki Montage, right. No, that was
going to need a montage.
That was a group effort.
Even Rocky had one.
Indeed. That was a group effort, that tweet there. In fact, somebody else typed it and said, is it okay to send? And I felt so important
to that
moment.
By the youth, for the youth.
Yes, exactly.
Boo-boo.
So, Zach, final thoughts on the convention. Do you say, I've compartmentalized what it used to be, I see what it is now? Do you think they should go back to what it was? What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I'm just sounding the alarm because I don't want it to fall. I don't want it to become something. I don't want to lose the momentum that it has. I don't want the organization to become something that it's not. And I just think that it has such a tremendous opportunity to change the life of so many young people, and I don't want that lost. Now, that being said, it was an incredible event. Mm-hmm. It was an incredible lineup. It was a great way to honor Charlie, and it kind of was the turning point.
I see what you did there.
Well done.
Of mourning to inspiration. There was some mourning.
So now that you bring that up, there were a few things that may have sounded good in theory, but we were a little iffy on. One of them, they had Charlie Kirk's microphone up on stage, which we both liked.
I liked that.
It was in a glass box up on stage.
A light was on it the whole time.
It was really, I thought that was very tasteful, very nice. Then there was this other thing.
Yeah.
Charlie Kirk's tent, and we still haven't confirmed if it's the tent
or a tent
that looks like the tent, was set up at the event with two pictures, one of Charlie sitting in the tent right before he got shot, and another one of just Charlie in his suit with the red tie the way he always looks. And they set up a selfie ring, a light ring in front of him. And I think if it had just...
#death tent.
Yeah, I think that's the problem. I think if it had
Don't
just...
make me start that chant. Death tent, death tent, death tent.
Oh, no.
I think I saw Death Tent open for Fat Lids one time.
Oh, there you go.
That was one of the vendors.
That's one of the
PHAT.
vendors. The giant
PHAT.
hats.
Yeah,
I
big
think
hats.
that if it didn't have the
Check the olds
selfie
out.
ring, if it did have the selfie ring, people would have treated it better. I think it was the addition of the, because the day I noticed it wasn't until the last day when I had the whole exhibit hall to ourselves, right? I hadn't really walked around that much before then. And I walk over the thing and I didn't want to go in it. And there were a couple of other people around who...
I wouldn't either. Bad juju.
Right, exactly.
Like I could feel spirits in here.
Yeah, and there were some
a
other
man
people
died
there.
in this tent. I don't want to be in that.
That was basically it. And the other people standing there going, is it the real tent? Is it not the real tent? But then on social media, you say, hey, I'm in the tent, and I got the selfie. And it was like, subscribe, and share.
Yeah.
I think that was the problem with the tent.
There's
you
one ring light too many.
Exactly. That may have done it.
Yeah,
That may have actually done it.
You know, all in all, it was a good event, and yes, we've turned the corner from mourning to honoring is maybe a better way to put it. And I'll tell you what, if they do another event, you know what, might as well put a second S in desert because I'm coming back for more.
Excellent. I think that's a great way to wrap up this segment. Thank you, Young Zach. You can listen to Young Zach on the morning ride every single weekday from 6 to 9 a.m. right here on Talk Radio 570 KVI. We got a whole lot more to discuss as the show continues. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. Well, my friends, we now know the Democrats' plan. Not that's a surprise to anybody, but they plan on a massive income tax to solve their own out-of-control spending. However, Republicans have another idea. Joining us now to discuss on the Warrior Injury Law studio line is the one and only Travis Couture. Thank you so much for being with us today.
Thanks for having me on again, Ari.
Such a pleasure. Now, your job in the legislature is basically dealing with the budget stuff from the Republican side of things. So now that you're dealing with this, what are you looking at here?
Yeah, so I'm expecting, obviously, today, the governor is going to come out with, quote, an all-cuts budget, but I think it's going to look intentionally ugly to pave the way into scaring people into more tax increases, including income taxes, payroll taxes, wealth taxes, and probably a host of more. As you've probably already seen, they plan on a buffet of new taxes. But what we're proposing is a budget that does not raise taxes, keeps all the core essential critical services intact. It doesn't cut any services. It just reduces the bloat and waste in government. And as it turns out, Ari, you could do that. You could cut $4 billion out of our state government tomorrow and not raise taxes and not have to cut essential services from people who actually need us the most. And so this is a proof of concept that I've put out there. It's called the Affordability First budget. It's a budget for the working class, and it does a lot of structural fixes to our budgeting process so that we don't continuously see run-on deficits, billion-dollar deficits every single year.
So then what's the stuff that we are cutting in this? I mean, are we talking about laser hair removal for trans inmates? Are we talking about self-service stations for gentlemen who call it an art gallery but are doing something else in there? What are we talking about here?
Yeah, so what we're really looking at is reducing the size of the Washington state bureaucracy. We're looking at cutting out some of the upper and middle management where load leveling ratios, especially like in our higher education system, for example. I mean, Evergreen has a 4 staff to 1 student ratio. That's insane. And this is stuff that costs us tons and tons of money, billions of dollars. And but at the same time, Ari, we're also looking at fixing some of the mistakes that Democrats made in just the last session, like cutting $1 billion out of Medicaid for poor Washingtonians' health care. I'm able to fix Medicaid in our state while still cutting down the size of government and so that we don't need tax increases. So obviously there's a lot more that you can do, right? This is an opening salvo. This is a fresh start that does some structural changes that curbs the growth of government over time. One of the key things that it does, Ari, is it enacts a spending cap. So you can't spend more than inflation and population. I know it's a crazy concept. And then when we have excess revenues, after we've put some money into the rainy day account, we have extra revenue, like we had a $15 billion surplus during COVID that was all completely wasted. We're creating a taxpayer relief account. So those excess revenues go back into a taxpayer relief account, become broad-based tax relief. And we calculated that if we had that policy in place since 2013 budget biennium, taxpayers in Washington state would have received $15 billion, $15 billion with a B, dollars in tax relief in this amount of time. And what we see right now is one of the most unaffordable states in the nation: gas, groceries, rent, insurance, childcare, energy, you name it. People are suffering, and we need a budget that actually works for people. And when we do spend money on stuff, we want to make sure there's actually solutions. So I've asked for zero-based budgeting. That means every dollar gets accounted for within state agencies. And then that's where you start attacking some of your laser hair removal for transgender inmates and Rain City Jacks. And we won't go into that. But, all the other things that these agencies are contracting and spending our money that they shouldn't be spending our money on, while we're cutting from single mothers on the edge of poverty and stealing their child support, right? Yeah. This budget framework is just a great contrast to what you're going to see from legislative Democrats coming next session, because they will scream to the high hills that unless we raise taxes, we just won't be able to operate as a government, and it's just not true at all.
So in the last few minutes we have with Representative Travis Couture, who's the budget lead on this for the Republicans in the Washington State Legislature. So how do you get the message out there? Last time you guys did something similar. You guys did a phenomenal job on the budget. The Democrats ignored every single word of it, but also the media ignored it, except for people like me. How do we fix that this time? How do we do a media blitz of they are doing this because they want to tax you, not because they need the money?
Yeah, it's a great question, and it's honestly the one that matters most because Washingtonians don't know Republicans' good ideas if we don't spread the word, because definitely the left media is not on our side. They're not going to help present the idea that we can have a balanced budget with no new taxes. What's structurally different than last time is that last time that no new taxes save Washington budget was released kind of in the middle of session, right? We're hitting it before session. We're contrasting it directly with the governor's budget that you'll see today, and then throughout the process, the Democrats' budget. And then unlike last time, we're rolling out, which we have on our website, the Washington House GOP website, which is the House Caucus's website. There is an executive summary if you don't want to read all 15 pages, but there is an in-depth kind of summary with details of everything that this has, and it's kind of marketable so that you can use this and spread around the different things that you like about this budget. And of course, I got to tell people that this is just the starting point. There's still a ton more work to do. Given the time frame we have in a short session, this is a great start. But I would, encourage everyone to go share that with their friends and their family. This budget proposal, you could share the documents directly. We're going to be rolling out more social media about it, which honestly is getting so good for our caucus that we're starting to outpace certain news organizations here in Western Washington with the amount of views that we get. But people are sick of it. They're sick of new taxes. They're hurting on the ground. And the only way we can win, Ari, and you pointed this out expertly, is if we share this with our friends, our families, our neighbors, and say there is a different way forward. And if the Democrats choose in this next coming session to go a completely different path and raise your taxes, then we'll have a whole different discussion going into the elections next year about what options voters would have chose as far as the budget is related. And so I'm really hopeful that we could pass that around and that we're going to get some media coverage on it here to the session and have a good contrast with not just the governor's proposed budgets, but also the House and Senate Democrats' proposed budgets as we go forward into session.
Representative Travis Couture, thank you so much for being with us today, and thank you so much for fighting so hard to stop this insane tax craziness that the Democrats and Bob Ferguson are proposing. Really do appreciate you joining us today.
Hey, thanks, Ari, and Merry Christmas and Happy Hanukkah to everybody.
Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah to you, and Happy New Year as well, my friend. We got a whole lot more. Only good news to wrap up the final live episode of the Ari Hoffman Show of this year. Now, programming note, let me tell you what's coming up so you understand. First of all, there is some kind of windstorm happening right now, which may have affected the transmitter. So if you're having issues, you should be on the stream right now to catch the last few minutes of the show. That'll be fixed, hopefully, as soon as possible. But we have tons of brand new content for you, including my top news stories of the year, my interview with the director of the new documentary, Thank You, Dr. Fauci. It's going to be protected. It's going to be the best documentary, best interview you've ever heard.
Yeah,
Mike
that's from our friends at Angel Studios.
Right, the ones who are behind David, which is killing it at the box office right now. So we're going to have that for you. Mike and I will also be talking about our top 10 movies and more. Plus, coming up on Wednesday and Thursday, it's the KVI Christmas Spectacular, featuring me, Mike, Phil, and Zach from The Morning Show. We've put a lot of work in on that. It's going to be great, and it's not just Is Die Hard a Christmas movie. There's a lot of great, great stuff. Now, tomorrow, we have a special episode. We had so many interviews and so much content from Turning Point USA. You get a day at Turning Point USA. Mike's going to be in the big chair tomorrow, but he's going to be giving you the content that we brought back with us from Turning Point USA, including an interview with Scott Pressler, who he recognized me. By the way, that guy, he didn't just recognize me like, oh, I kind of know you. It was Ari, how are you?
Yeah, no, he ran to the booth. Zach was telling me that earlier. It's interesting at those Turning Point functions where usually it's the other way around.
Yes.
But like it was interesting to see somebody enthusiastically track you down. And it's good to know that Scott remembers his friends. That's
Absolutely.
awesome.
Yeah, very classy guy. Also, it's the thing where it's kind of evolved from beforehand. It was like, okay, he's this guy in town who's coming in. Now it's kind of like, this is my friendish Scott, which was really, really nice. And by the way, there were a few people like that. We've been going to this thing for so long now. Here's one for you. Isabel Brown from the Daily Wire.
Yeah.
Remember she used to be with Turning Point?
Mm-hmm.
So I'm walking past the Daily Wire booth, and she's got a mob of people. And I go, hey, Isabel, great to see you. And she goes, Ari, come here. I mean, there was a lot of that from the people that we know. So that was really nice. But tomorrow you get to be put in the middle of Turning Point USA with all the interviews that we haven't aired yet, plus some extra content. That's going to be tomorrow. It's going to be a lot of great stuff. Now, the rest of the week, we got special programming for you. We've got some best of episodes. There'll be great stuff for the next 2 weeks. I'm going to be back on air. What is it, January 5th?
January 5th, Monday.
Monday, January 5th, where I'll be live. Until then, though, I'm still going to be working on some content for KVI.com while I'm gone. I'm still going to be posting to social media. I'm going to Israel to visit my son who's in the IDF and my son who's taking a gap year. I'm going to be there. I'll post pictures of my trip. Last year, I actually got in some trouble for posting pictures of a barbecue stuff. That's a whole nother story. But yes, I'll post pictures of the crazy barbecue food I'm planning on eating. It'll be great. It'll be fantastic. But before we go, I just want to say, go ahead, Mike.
No. It's fine. Go ahead. Sorry.
Okay.
I turned my mic on too soon.
No problem.
I flagged I wanted to say something, but no, go ahead. I'm stomping all over.
I'll just say this. It's another year of the show, and we only have the show because of all of you. And I just want to say thank you from the bottom of my heart that I get to do my dream job with my best friend here because of all of you. And you guys make it possible. So we just want to say big, big thank you to you. And, of course, wish everybody a Merry Christmas, a Happy New Year. And we're just so happy and honored and privileged. Yes, we're white privileged. We're privileged that you guys
JD
trust
Vance
us.
says that's okay now. So we're in the clear. We're all good.
Exactly. So just so happy about that.
Well, no, I just wanted to say, and man, now I got to follow that. Thank you for being our friends and being members of the Big Mike Militia and all the honkas and all of that other stuff. But no, thanks for another awesome year of hanging with us and making us part of your day. We appreciate it more than you would ever know. But the thing I wanted to say with regards to our programming coming up for the next couple weeks, I take your phone calls and your emails and your texts whenever we run best ofs, especially during the holidays in the fall. And it's like, well, what do you guys want if you don't want best ofs? They're like, we want new stuff. So I'm like, okay, cool. Me and Ari really put our heads together to make sure that you got some good new stuff coming up. So I don't want to see you complain on the text line when I occasionally run a couple best ofs that I think are fun and good and I think you'll like.
Exactly.
We got some fun shows coming up the next couple weeks. Stick with us.
It's going to be good stuff. Mike put in a lot of effort on this. All of us at KVI, all of us work together to come up with all this stuff for you. It's going to be some great stuff. So that being said, that's going to do it for another year of the Ari Hoffman Show. And we will be back next year with more insane stories, more exciting guests, plus some new surprises. You've been listening to The Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI.